Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Trying to make sure the sound is good. All right. I'm going to go live here in just a second. Should be good.
Across and check the gutters on the other side, and the boss man was like, don't do that because the roof's not very stable. He's like, it's fine, I got this. He gets over the other side, checks it, comes back, steps on the skylight, falls
Right,
through,
hope
cracks
this
his
is
head open
good.
and dies. Right there.
I
How
feel
old
bad
was
now
he?
because I thought you were joking.
I'm not joking in the slightest.
How old was he?
He was 21.
Oh shit. That's your age, Xander Hall. God, let that sink in, buddy. Ooh.
And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, it's that is really rough though. Shit, man.
That's
Sorry
awful.
to hear that. What's
Demon
Machine?
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know him that well. Is my camera choppy for you guys too? It's my mom's van, or it was my mom's van.
Is it a
She-
problem that I don't have a camera on, Dylan?
I
Or
mean,
wait, it's
She
just
sucked
like...
because I can't tell who's talking.
Oh yeah, he'll wanna have you have your camera on if you need help with it. I know you've set it up on here before, but you can if you don't have two cameras, you can just oh yeah. What I always do,
I'm just lazy.
if you want to use the same camera, what I always do is I use I open up OBS Studio and Streamlabs OBS. Oh, I can help you set up like the using one camera on OBS and on Stream and in Discord after the debate panel if you want. It's actually surprisingly easy.
Okay. Yeah, I think that this works though, right? This looks all right.
You guys
Doesn't
aren't
look
hearing
as-
yourselves, are you?
The saturation's a little weird, but it'll do well. It'll do pretty good.
Yeah, it
Thanks,
doesn't. I mean, it doesn't look as good as my main camera, of course, but it works for the panel.
This should be fun tonight. We're talking about Biden and whether he's portrayed fairly in the media. Talking about COVID. And we're talking about the abortion ban
we
in
ate dinner.
Texas. So it should be interesting.
So I'm so fat. Lively conversation up in here.
Sorry, I'm playing Agario while I wait.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Can I not hear anybody? What's going on? Give me a moment.
Because you were muted? Because you're terrible? No, I don't know. You're bad at this game. Try again.
Pro level streamer, man.
Yeah.
Not like he does it every day, you know?
I have sat here and worked on a car for 20 minutes, and then finally somebody used text speech to tell me my fucking mic's off.
Hello. Hey, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Wonderful. Now it's fixed. Okay. I had it on the wrong Discord setting. Welcome, everybody, to the Hippy Dippy Roundtable, which will be surely an interesting episode. You've come from all across the United States and one New Zealand to
What?
Is it what?
Australia?
It's Australia.
Oh. Is there a difference?
Oh my god.
Well,
that will really piss off the Kiwis.
Ah, well.
They will be
what?
offended.
The Kiwis. Well,
Yeah, they don't
I'm
wanna be
sorry
mistaken for
to
Australians right now.
to my 7 Kiwi viewers. I'm sorry if I've lost your patronage. But I would like to welcome you all to the Hippy Dippy Roundtable. We have a whole host of issues to talk about. I'm just going to jump straight into it. So here's the rules. Nothing against terms of service. No attack to anybody's immutable characteristics. You know, race, gender, stuff like that. No doing any of that. Now, there is a thing about attacking religion. And I will say that obviously with one of the topics today being Texas's new abortion law, religion is most likely going to be discussed to some degree. So that could somewhat be off of it. But I will ask you to please don't go around dragging everybody's interfaith faiths through the mud. It's not a rule, but it's just a personal request. No slurs, nothing of that sort. And when I talk, nobody else talks because I'm moderate. You've all seen the show before, and you've all, I think most of you have been on the show before. So except for Pixel, sadly. But Pixel's here for the first time. We love new guests. And so when I speak, nobody else speaks because I'm purely moderating. I will not be giving my opinion. I will just be moderating. So if I speak up and you hear my voice, shut it down, or I will shut it down for you. I will do my best to moderate aggressively today because I want to make sure we have a productive discussion. Are there any questions about any of the rules that I've stated? Okay, no, pretty simple rules, pretty basic for most people. Okay, so we're going to go around the room, introduce themselves. For each topic, you have about a minute to state your opening statement uninterrupted and a minute to close it out. And right now, we're going to go to a minute-long introductions for everybody. We're going to start in the top left-hand corner with Aircraft Sparky.
Hi, everybody. I'm Aircraft Sparky. I am a nationalist conservative, and I draw cartoons here on Twitch. I do these little panel shows here and there, and over at YouTube, I do weekly type of news roundup type thing. But yeah, that's about all. Looking forward to a great discussion. We got some good topics tonight, things I'm interested in. So yeah, happy to be here.
Happy to have you here. Now we're going to move it over to Biggs.
Yeah, I'm Biggs. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube at Biggs8500. I'm a centrist libertarian. I like to think of myself as a practical libertarian. Obviously, I don't think any ideology to one extreme or another can be good. I think you need to have a mix of everything. I like to talk about politics, be on panels. I want to thank Dylan for having me on tonight and thank all the other panelists for coming in. It should be a fun conversation tonight.
Okay, now I'm going to throw it over to Demon Machine.
Hi, I'm Demon Machine, obviously. I fix cars all day on Twitch, and I yell about politics while I do that, and or talk and teach you about how to fix cars. That's pretty much the gig. People call me conservative, libertarian, Nazi. I don't care. Pick a thing. I don't really care what you want to call me. I just pick the.
Just call me a Nazi. Okay, sounds like a good intro.
Wonderful. Now we're going to throw it over to Hunter Avalon.
What's up? My name is Hunter Avalon. I am a former conservative turned social democrat. Thanks so much, Dylan, for having me on. I'm looking forward to the conversation, and thanks everyone for joining today.
Happy to have you on. Hunter Avalon actually recently put a video on his channel with me in it where I talk about what's going on in Afghanistan. So if anyone wanted to go to his channel to check that out from my channel, I would go suggest that. Go give him some support for that video. Now we're going to throw it over to the lovely Miss Rose.
Hi, I'm Josie Rose. Thank you again for having me. I just came back from the mountains a week ago. It was probably the most tranquil thing ever in the Eastern Sierras. You can find me on Twitch at Josie Rose C. By trade, I am a trans researcher for the largest trans equality organization in the country, and I have about 10 years of political background and experience, and I even got like 6 years of reactor operations in the Navy under my belt. So I got a pretty eclectic history. So love to just bring my perspective and have fun tonight.
Happy to have you. Now we're going to throw it to a first-timer, Pixel Smixel.
Hello. I am not a Kiwi, but I cover the news most nights here on Twitch at very early American hours while everybody's asleep. And I basically, my history is I studied psychology and
cool.
wound up accidentally becoming a content creator, which I feel like is a common thing that happens sometimes with psychology degrees. But yeah, I cover the news, and that's about it. Oh, and politically, I am very much on the left, but I do believe in reformist and grassroots organizing as well. So I believe both can exist at the same time.
Now we're going to throw it over to the Turk.
Yeah, my name's Turk. I stream science and tech here on Twitch and YouTube. I do computers, PC hardware, tech reviews, and all that stuff. I don't work on vehicles like Demon Machine does, but I work on computers. Dylan, you've always been hyped up about the PlayStation 5 build, right?
Exactly, yes.
I've got a mobile PlayStation 5 that's going to be on my video next week over on YouTube. So if
A
y'all like computer
mobile
stuff,
PlayStation
yeah,
5.
mobile PlayStation 5. So
Turn Hippy up.
I'm conservative. Check the hat. I live in Texas, so I've got some pretty good info and feedback for one of the topics tonight. But glad you had me on. Hope to have a good discussion tonight.
Happy to have you on, Turk. And now we're going to throw it over to Xanderhall to wrap up the intros.
Yeah, I guess you'd call me a sock dem. I'm a professional Rust streamer that dabbles in politics, also professional Rust addict. And yeah, I mean, I just stream
Professional
on
Rust
Twitch
addict.
and talk about politics
good.
and play video games.
Happy to have you on. Now we're going to go into the first topic of the night, and it's going to be, one moment. Should we sympathize with anti-vax commentators who catch COVID, or however you want to classify said commentators? So there has been an example of Phil Valentine, who I wouldn't call an anti-vaxxer, but at least a vaccine skeptic, who recently passed away after catching COVID, and a host of other commentators who have caught COVID and are struggling it, fighting with it, or dealing with it. Not just conservatives, mind you, but I believe it was it what's his name? Rainbow Coalition. Somebody remind me. Rainbow Coalition. He ran for president. Jesse Jackson. He also caught COVID. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows it's not just conservatives catching COVID. It's not like magnetic to them.
And Joe
But
Rogan too.
Joe Rogan caught COVID as well. So there's a whole host of people of a very long list of ideologies catching COVID, but particularly there's been a dialogue online about how we should treat those who are anti-vaxxers or vaccine skeptics who catch COVID online. And so should we sympathize them, or do they not deserve our sympathy? So I'm going to start in the top right-hand corner with Demon Machine.
Oh God, me first. Fine. I don't care what you feel about it. Honestly, it doesn't matter. Either you decide to get a shot and that's what you want to do, or you decide not to get a shot because that's what you find is the best option. And I don't need your sympathy, and I don't think anybody else needs your sympathy. What's the point of the sympathy? Unless you're gonna do something, like if you're gonna like give me something or help somebody else out in a meaningful way, then fucking thoughts and prayers. I don't care. I don't care. Like, there's no point. It's emotions. That's
Happy to
pretty
have
much
you.
it.
Wonderful. Now we're going to move it over to Biggs.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with a little bit what the Demon Machine said there. With don't really care what other people think necessarily, but in regards to like medical treatment and healthcare, I think that we should treat everybody equally with that. I think hospitals are required to provide equal care to everybody, regardless of if they have the vaccine or not. And as long as that's still staying the same, I think I'm fine with that. But I do think, as far as like, if you want to ridicule people, I do think that kind of just puts more of a resistance to actually getting whatever you want them to do. The old adage, you catch more flies with honey than with shit. So things like that. But I think that we can make sure that everybody's getting treated, and as long as that's the case, I'm perfectly fine with people online or whatever saying whatever they want, because you guys have the right to say it, and people have the right to either get the shot or not. So that's where I stand on that.
Okay, now I'm going to throw it over to Aircraft Sparky.
Yeah, man, y'all took all my talking points. Look, when it comes down to it, when people make decisions, consequences come one way or the other. So it is their decision to make. It's not really for you or anyone else to make that decision for them. So, I mean, look, do what you're going to do. I make fun of people who stand in the middle of the road protesting and get ran over by trucks. It just is what it is. Make bad decisions and bad things happen. Personally, when it comes down to the vaccine, I am probably one of the most vaccinated people on this panel, just because of my military service and how closely it's been since I've gotten out. And I've kept up a lot of them. But there's some vaccines that I just don't want to take. It's my choice, right? And that's just the way it is. So, yeah, if you really want to be a jerk and make fun of people that die, I mean, hey, do it. Why not?
Okay, I'm going to throw it now over to Hunter Avalon.
All right. Should we sympathize with people that don't get the vaccine and they get COVID? I think that it can go both ways. Truthfully, I'm going to kind of take the enlightened centrist route there. I can understand sympathizing with some people, people that have been led astray, for example, by a lot of misinformation that floats around about the vaccines. As I've said, other than a medical condition or like your own personal doctor advising against the vaccine for whatever reason, I think that there's really no legitimate reason not to get the COVID-19 vaccine. So I think that for some people, if they get COVID and they're not vaccinated for whatever reason, if they've fallen victim to like conservative bullshit or something, then I could totally sympathize with those people. But I think if it's like a spokesperson or someone who actively contributes to misinformation and then they get COVID, I mean, medical wise, of course, they should be treated equally. But as far as how we react to it, I think they deserve the scorn and laughter that they get, because that's just personal responsibility at the end of the day.
Okay, now I'm going to throw it over to Josie Rose.
All right. So the thing is, like, the narrative here isn't about like making fun of people or trying to get some type of Schadenfreude in from people who are obviously denying science. It's the fact that these people have massive platforms and have instructed many people to not take the vaccine. Joe Rogan has done it himself, and just trying to like make it out to be like they can survive it, and giving bad misinformation. In San Diego County, they just made misinformation a public health crisis here in the county. The county supervisors
Look at
just
Demon
passed
Machine.
that. So the fact of the matter is, it is a public health crisis. If people are led astray because of their
Demon Machine is
personality
going nuts
and
over
that
there.
person
This
dies,
is
it
so
should be a
funny.
warning flag for a lot of people. So yeah, I
Demon
look forward to
Machine's
the open
going
argument on
nuts.
this.
Wonderful. Now I'm going to throw it over to Pixel Smexel.
It's great.
I agree with the two previous speakers. I don't think that even if you expect equal treatment under the healthcare system, really that's not going to happen. If people don't get vaccinated, also I'm not for mandating vaccines. I believe you should have a choice. But if you don't get vaccinated, it's kind of
That's
wishful
based.
thinking to think that you're not going to like face some sort of like if you're in a triage situation, you are obviously going to face some sort of even subconscious effect from the healthcare system. That being said, in regards to the overall question tonight, I don't think we should ridicule the people who are spreading misinformation, but people with big platforms who are spreading like harmful rhetoric deserve to be held to account. But I am particularly sensitive to other people who are scared of like I got my first vaccine this week and I was nervous, and it people can be nervous about getting vaccines for so many different reasons: governmental distrust, health, needles. There can be so many reasons that people can be terrified of getting vaccinated. So I choose sensitivity in most of these situations. But like if you're Joe Rogan and you're saying like ivermectin, monoclonal, all of these things, I think there should be some pretty harsh criticism there. But yeah, that's basically my take.
Wonderful. Now we're going to throw it over to the Turk.
Yeah, so I don't disagree with a lot of the people that have said, but I'm going to kind of echo what Big said earlier. You know, there's so much division in our
I knew
world
I
these
liked Turk.
days that I think it would be a good step forward or olive branch to actually show sympathy to really ill-educated or ill-informed people, and show some sympathy and actually be like, hey, you know what, I don't agree with what you did, but you know, I'm going to be there with you, I'm going to help you throughout this whole process. It's going to help mend some wounds and hopefully, you know, even be a good you know, instigator towards, you know, better public discourse, especially with some of these, you know, larger people on larger platforms. If we just ridicule them and throw them to the side because they got it and stuff bad happened to them, they're not gonna be any better off, and that discourse is not gonna improve. So I would implore everyone to have a little bit more sympathy on all things considered in the world.
Wonderful. Now we're going to throw it over to Xander Hall.
Yeah, I have a really, really hard time finding any sympathy in my heart for the people that spend all day decrying the efficacy of the vaccines and end up getting sick. I'm a big believer in the fuck around and find out philosophy. I have a really, I don't care for these people. Okay. I think anti-vaxxers are sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. They're going to the problem's going to handle itself. Let's just say that. I don't feel any more bad for them than I do for someone who plays with fire and gets burnt. They've heard the evidence. It's not hard to find. Any mainstream media channel besides maybe Fox News on TV makes it very clear what the vaccines do, how they work, how effective they are. I just don't have any sympathy for these people whatsoever, and I don't think you guys should either, but that's my take.
Okay. Now we're going to open it up to a open discussion on the matter. I will now ask one last time to make sugar your favorite spice and always be nice. It's not a rule, but it's a personal request. You can openly engage now.
Can I get really loud, or
I don't want to be nice.
Is that against the rules?
You're allowed to get loud, yes, but I might turn you down if it gets too much.
Okay, cool. So was somebody? I think it was Rosie. You said Josie. Sorry, not Rosie. You said that there was some place that they were cracking misinformation.
Well, in San Diego County, we just deemed it a public health risk to spread misinformation about masks and vaccines. That means if you give somebody misinformation and they get sick and die.
What's misinformation?
Who determines? We're going over the government regulations and CDC guidelines.
The government.
Yeah, the government is using the government.
No, we're not saying. Hold on, we're not.
Wait,
I have a better trust.
Wait. No, okay, I'm immediately shutting this down. Let's let the interaction happen before other people jump in, okay? So,
so at what point is the government responsible for enacting their own measures against themselves for misinformation that may or may not have been spread?
They do have implementation. It's called the public, like when you have a public body, there's like people can do investigations. There is Freedom of Information Act. You can do all that stuff. It's not uncommon to see the government be wrong and then get fixed.
So should they be punished for being wrong and being fixed?
Right.
Well, yeah, people get fired all the time.
So Fauci should be fired.
I have a question for Demon Machine real quick.
Because Fauci has spread misinformation. That is a valid point.
Demon Machine, if you don't trust the CDC, then who do you trust?
Not the CDC. I trust doing research and finding out. Here's
okay, so doing research. So wait, who do you trust?
Do you look up all the side effects of your medicine that you're taking, regardless of whether your doctor prescribed it or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
I take a lot of medications.
Cool.
What does that have to do with
what does that have to do
with I'm just wondering who you trust, Demon Machine. Who, if it's not the CDC, if you don't trust the CDC to give you accurate information on like health-related issues, same with the World Health Organization, if you don't trust these major, usually recognized and trusted institutions, then what do you trust?
Nobody.
So how do you know what's right and what's wrong? How do you know what's misinformation?
Information from all sorts of different sources and then make it come to a conclusion. It might come from the CDC. It might come from other places. Maybe I might agree.
So you do trust the CDC sometimes?
What?
So you only like the CDC when it agrees with you?
That's not when did you?
You just said you don't trust anyone. You just said you don't trust anyone. Then you said you don't trust the CDC, and then you said sometimes you like the CDC.
It depends on what they're talking about. If it makes any fucking sense.
If it makes any sense, which would be what? Something that you agree with, right? This is it. No. Come on, man. You either trust you either wait. You either trust the CDC or you don't. You don't trust an institution when it's convenient for you.
I'm gonna do anything you fucking say. Every time you say something, bow down to whatever you said because you're the fucking lord of my life. No, I'm gonna find out what the fuck they said, and I'm gonna go do some research and be like,
now I see why we had this guy out.
Yeah. So I can think.
Measures that I can do with this.
So I want to chime in here real quick.
It's
so
funny how he throws a tantrum when he's actually challenged on his ideas.
I do think you're being a little dishonest because I think that.
Wait, before I go too far, I like to be loud. It's just my thing.
Okay, Biggs.
Yeah, so I think, Hunter, you're being a little dishonest because I think that you would probably agree that you do your own assembly of information before you make decisions and multiple sources and things like that, you would agree with that, right? Like most people should do that kind of research.
But one of those, but when you say multiple sources, what does that mean? What this guy
it can be all kinds.
Means,
well, that's what I think. I think you were taking it to a place that was being as disfavorable to him as possible. When I think that most of us here on the panel will probably take a whole combination of information before we make decisions.
But that combination should include the major institutions that are usually
But we
trusted,
also know from this, especially within COVID itself, we've had lots of things where they told us the wrong thing or it was inaccurate. I understand, like the mask thing, right? The first they said don't wear masks, and they said wear masks, all that.
So that's been explained and addressed publicly.
Yeah, because they lied.
What else
they
was
lied.
there?
They lied, right?
No, yes,
they lied because so that's what we're talking about.
Hold on, wait.
Wait, stop before. Okay, so
it wasn't even the CDC.
No.
God.
Yeah, God.
I love you, Dylan.
I love you too, buddy. Okay, I'll take you out for some tea later. Now, for everybody, I just want to be very clear that we're not going to have a dog and pony show here. We're going to keep it somewhat orderly, okay? So I might start just going around the room and pointing to who I think I want to speak next, okay?
They're accusing me of being bad faith, though.
Wait, well, Hunter, do you have a history of hearing problems?
Yes.
You do? Well, thank God. Thank God, because that would explain a lot.
He's so molding already.
So when
molding
I'm speaking,
already.
No one else is speaking. So no dog and pony show. Going to be running an orderly panel. So I don't even know who's the last person to talk. Who was the last person to talk? Could somebody tell me and be honest? It was Biggs. Okay, so Biggs, I want you to finish your point, and then we'll have the person you're talking to respond.
I was done. If Hunter can go ahead.
So then Hunter can go.
So
can I respond for Biggs then?
All I was going to say really quickly was,
Turk, you'll be next.
Yes, Fauci lied about the masks initially, and we can all agree that that was less than ideal tactics. However, that has since, one, been addressed. Two, there's a reasonable explanation for why it happened. Although not ideal, there was a good reason for why it happened, and that's since been explained. And three, this was not a lie about anything vaccine related at the end of the day either. So we can talk about the dishonest tactics.
Well, we were talking specifically about the appeal to authority of these major institutions, right? So that's where I was going with that, not necessarily about the vaccines. Just so we're clear.
Did the CDC say not to wear masks specifically, or was that just Fauci? I could be wrong, but it's my understanding.
I'm pretty sure it was my understanding that it was the CDC along with Fauci, because they were concerned about, like you said, it was explained that they were concerned about the availability of masks for people in healthcare and stuff like that, which is understandable, but you still shouldn't lie to people. And that's where people have this mistrust. But again,
So do you think just because that happened, you should just not trust them at all ever again?
I never said that. All I said is you need to take a combination of information from the best sources that you seem to think are viable sources, make a whole, take all that information and make a decision, right? And if people make that decision, if it doesn't necessarily agree with one of these institutions, and in fact, some of these institutions may even be at odds with what they're saying about it, right? So we have to take this information with a grain of salt, no matter where it comes from, and actually make justifiable decisions.
With this. This is anti-intellectualism. This is anti-intellectualism.
It's not anti-intellectualism at all, but
this is absolutely. This is that you just said we have to take everything with a grain of salt.
Yes, you do.
There are some sources. There are some sources and authorities that are more trustworthy and should be held in higher regards than others. I am going to take InfoWars with a grain of salt. I'm not going to take what the World Health Organization says as a grain of salt or with a grain of salt. There are different levels to authority when it comes to these institutions. That's why we have these institutions, is because historically we trust them to give us, at the end of the day, accurate information in regards to health crisis.
I have a question for you real quick. Has it always been good outcomes of those decisions to follow those institutions?
Not every single time.
That's
but
fine.
we can.
That's all I wanted to ask.
But that's a fallacy.
Wait, yeah.
No, I'm just saying it doesn't matter. That's what the thought process that people are having. They want to take the information that comes in, and like I said, we've seen it within these cases that they've lied about. It doesn't matter when people lie; it makes people
wrong.
Okay,
where's the authority on anti-vaccine rhetoric? Like,
there is none. This is anti-intellectualism. This is this idea that you can just take any source and just be like, oh, well, this is fine. World Health Organization. Okay, yeah, that's fine. And this random dipshit on YouTube said this thing. We should also listen to them.
No,
I
that's
never
not
said. Where
how
are
we
you
operate.
coming up with? I never said any of that.
You said we should take any. You said we should take all sources.
You
with
should
a grain of
take
salt.
as much. Yes,
That
you
is what
should
you
take
said.
all sources with a grain of salt and make your own
No.
decisions. Yes,
There are some
no
that hold more
authorities are
weight than
100%
others.
correct
That's what
ever.
I'm
That just
disagreeing with
does.
you.
Okay, that's fine.
It's
Okay.
anti-intellectualism.
A
I'll leave it
question
at
for the
that.
conservatives
Okay,
on the
wait.
panel. Can I ask a question really quick?
One question. One moment. I want Turk to go first because he's been waiting, and then we got other people on the list. But I'll have you, Turk, then Zan.
So I
go
have
back to the
two.
list.
I have 2 points. Can I make the first point, then Xander can go, then I make my second point?
Sure, we can do that one.
Cool. So to Avalon, a direct example here is I think it was in April, the CDC explicitly said that schools should be able to reopen and that there shouldn't be really any guidelines that go in place. The following week, they reversed that and said that schools should remain closed or have all sorts of other mandates in place. So according to your authority powers from the CDC, which time frame is more accurate? And if you're going to go and say that in the public square in San Diego, should you be prosecuted for misinformation crimes?
I don't know anything about the San Diego thing, so I'm not going to speak on that. But as far as the first thing you said, yeah, I think that if we want to talk about, like, this sounds like a completely normal process. I'm
Good.
not saying that every single
He's
thing the
trying to do his debate
CDC
bro
utters
shit.
the first time they
Fine.
say it is going to be 100% correct. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm rather saying is that we need to listen to these institutions. And yes, there are going to be times where they say one thing and then that decision has to be changed. When it comes to can I
Yeah,
just
right.
please finish? When it comes to COVID,
What's
this
up,
is a
everybody? Thanks for hopping
developing
in.
pandemic.
I
And
appreciate
with
it.
that comes developing guidelines and developing knowledge. I'm just saying that the CDC, they're not just making these calls randomly. This is based on new evidence that comes in that's also developing.
So back to
And the
Biggs's
reason they
point,
changed on children is because children's rate of COVID infection has gone up dramatically. That's why they change it as news changes.
So I want you to source me the 2 scientific studies between the April
Right?
time when
Can't
they
lie
said
to
that
me, even
schools
if it is
should
for my own
reopen,
good, damn it.
and then the scientific study that says that schools should not remain open.
I don't need to do that.
No,
I
that's
don't
to
need to do
Josie.
that. That's why? What's the point of
Because
that?
she just claimed that the reason they did it was because the science changed. I want to see those studies.
I didn't say the
I mean-
science changed. I said that the rate of children getting infections of COVID did.
But between
That's
one week and the other?
No,
quantitative
I said that the
data.
CDC has
show me the
walked back-
data. I want to see the data.
That was me
refutes
that said that. I
or-
said the
or
CDC.
qualifies that.
Dude, you're the one that brought up these examples. If you want to look more into it, then you should have that. You should have that on hand. Don't
my
have me to
question
go
was
be
to
your little
you,
errand boy.
If you're
here.
going to have one
I'm
authoritative person saying schools should reopen one week, then they don't open or they shouldn't be open the next week. How can
Let's
you
find out
take
why
that
they
on
changed the
institution
decision.
Serious? Why shouldn't you take it?
Why?
With a grain
Wait.
of salt?
Why can you? Wait. I want you to try to listen to how silly that sounds. An institution said something, then changed their approach.
And change.
Why should we listen to that institution? Sometimes, like, the White House says something and has to retract a statement. You realize that authoritative institutions can say things and then walk back on that later for good reason and still be authoritative institutions.
Yeah, the reason we have a
This
problem
is-
is because they literally lied on purpose. That's the bigger
Dude,
issue here.
This guy said he was an
That is
enlightened
a
centrist. This
conspiracy
is
to
some
say that.
dipshittery right here.
You just literally said that they lied on purpose. You know how conspiratorial that sounds?
They admitted to it. Do you not understand that they said they lied on purpose?
but is
Are
there
you?
not
Are you?
harm
Do you not? Does that memory hold for you, or what?
Wait. That wasn't even the same thing that we were
And let
talking about right now.
Pixel, he's been trying to speak.
Oh no, I've been enjoying the conversation, but like, do you not realize that public institutions probably have to like skirt the truth occasionally in the interests of public safety? Like, they legitimately can't just be mind-blowingly obvious all the time because it could actually be very problematic for
They're
society.
literally making our
Like, I'm
argument
not
for
even-
us. It's
why
great.
do you think that they took the mask route when at the beginning of the pandemic? Because they were worried there wouldn't be enough masks for fucking healthcare workers.
I completely understand that, and I completely appreciate this entire thing has been a learning process. And yes, the information changes and things change. I still want to see the study that helped direct the CDC to reverse course on that thing. But do y'all understand how?
So I don't have a.
No, let me finish my statement, please.
Sorry.
Y'all see how this changing of the tone from these authoritative figures might spur some senses of doubt in the populace that don't necessarily. They believe you one day, then you change your mind, then you change your mind. You see how that could show
It's
some
not.
doubt?
It's an evolving situation. It's a crisis.
really
like
quickly.
it's.
But
It's
you
just
don't
a crisis
I
situation.
have what he was
Things
asking
evolve.
for. Hey, the
Okay,
Turk.
go ahead,
I,
Hunter.
You
The
can send
Turk-
me. You can send me the information in the
all right,
Discord.
I'd like
DMs.
to be. Be happy to send you this. This doesn't have the actual study. I'm trying to find it linked, but this is the CDC updates operational strategy for K through 12 schools to reflect new evidence on physical distance in classrooms. The Centers for Disease Control is updating guidelines to reflect the latest science on physical distance between students in classrooms. This might be what you're talking about, how they changed the guidelines.
Yeah, send it to me. I would love to read it. And
Okay,
more
so
importantly,
once
the
again,
time
this is-
frame for this conversation, because 1 week it was one thing.
This
week
is
it was
March
another.
19th. It's a developing
HCQ.
pandemic,
So that
and
might
it's
be the
based
same
on
study then. Yeah, I'd love to.
yeah,
read
and it's based on the latest science. So
HCQ.
all I'm saying is I understand how some people might see them say something and then have to walk back on it, and then that might make them doubt that institution there for a second. Sure, but at the end of the day, this is a developing pandemic.
Oh,
So the best thing that we can do is
hydrochloroquine.
help people understand that with a developing pandemic, there's also developing research, and there are going to be trial and error. There are going to be some mistakes made, and there are going to be sometimes that they have to walk back. That doesn't mean that this institution is not authoritative.
Right? Yeah, you
It
can't
simply
just-
means that they have the latest
You can't
information
doubt anything. You
updating
must
us on the health
you must
crisis.
obey.
They have access to information and studies and research that we simply do not. There's a reason they are an authoritative institution.
So wait, they have information that they're not sharing with us.
No, they have like
have
access to they have access to like the tools necessary to conduct certain research. They have they might even have access to certain like who knows, these institutions might be talking
But
about
they
like
they also collate data in an easy to digest way. Like nobody has the skills to, like the general populace do not have the skills to go through paper after paper.
Right, yes,
looking
watching
at
the leftist
statistics.
squirm
I
and
didn't know
mold.
the statistics. I still have no
Josie
idea
is
what I'm
like
looking at
freaking out over
sometimes.
here.
Like you think the regular
funny.
everyday people are going to go out there and read paper after paper properly? No,
There's
they're
a
gonna
reason
look
you
at
have to
something
actually
and talk about
Wait,
ivermectin
let her
and
finish.
fucking take ivermectin.
Okay,
there's a
one
reason
moment.
you have to take like be a data analyst, like get a degree in that kind of shit to fully understand like statistics and how it works. You just can't always look at raw numbers and just draw your own conclusion.
Okay,
Yeah,
give me a moment.
as a
Yeah,
data. Oh, go
wait,
ahead.
We
go
gotta.
ahead.
Xander Hall has been waiting very patiently for his turn
Okay.
to speak, and then I do want to return to the list, but I'll write your name down, Josie.
Thank you.
Xander Hall.
Okay, I have a statement followed by a question for the conservatives on here. Okay, for starters, anyone here who's claiming that they're super skeptical and they look into everything and they make sure that whatever they're doing isn't going to cause them any harm, and they always take authoritative sources with a grain of salt is a complete lie. Everybody here buys food from the grocery store, which is approved by the FDA, and is sure because of that the food's going to be safe. Whenever the FDA does a recall of a certain product, they still buy it. Okay, we don't pretend like you're out there hunting deer in the wild for all of your food, and nothing there is being touched by some potentially malicious actor. And then I have a question. Okay. What motivation would the government have to lie about the efficacy of the vaccine, to prolong this pandemic that's fucked up our economy, is killing shit tons of Americans? What does the government gain from that? You could make the argument that, oh, it helps them maintain power. I'd argue that a strong economy and lots of money helps the government maintain power. This pandemic does nothing but harm the government. It does nothing but harm the economy. The government has nothing to gain from this pandemic going on any longer. It is in their best interest to put out an effective vaccine that ends this pandemic so that businesses aren't getting shut down, people are going out and they're buying things, the economy is stronger, and people are more trusting in the government. Those are it is against the government's best interest to lie about this and to prolong this pandemic.
Okay, it seems that
True.
the Demon Machine is really eager
Really
to
fast
respond.
point. Has this been the largest transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich in the past like fucking forever?
It's been like that for 40 years. It hasn't changed.
No. Is it
Oh
been this
no, it
past
has
year
changed
as more money
substantially
evaporated?
In what way is it a transfer of wealth from the poor to the wealthy?
because a lot of small businesses have had to close because of the lockdowns and everything else. If businesses aren't open, they can't sell their wares and then they go out of business. It doesn't matter how long you actually keep that injection of the free money copium going on. They're eventually
Even
going
if
to
that-
go broke and break down. And it's
Amazon
not
did
going to
clean
work
up
anymore.
for sure.
How's that help the government?
How does it help the government? I don't know. When it comes down to it, I don't have to know that answer. What I do know is that what was called
dark
conspiracy theory.
What dark conspiracy does the government have going for them that means they want the pandemic to be prolonged? It doesn't help out. The government has to bail out these corporations during the pandemic.
Hey, Xander Hall, hey, do yourself a huge favor, guys.
I have people talking at once. I can't hear something. So, Zan, say what you said again, and then we'll have aircraft parking respond. I couldn't hear what either of you said there.
Yeah, there's no actual answer to this. That's why I asked the question, because there's nothing the government gains from this entire pandemic. Nothing whatsoever. The economy being strong is what helps the politicians in power get reelected. They don't want these businesses being shut down because no one's buying from them. The government doesn't want to have to be doing bailouts for corporations that can't hold themselves up during the pandemic. There's no reason at all that the government would want to prolong this. It is in their best interest to put out a vaccine that works well, that has the minimum amount of possible harmful side effects to help end this pandemic. In no way does it help the government or any of the shadowy dark people in power or whatever that you conspiracy theorists seem to believe in for the pandemic to be prolonged. Okay, if anything, this has hindered their power and their ability to continue to maintain it. I mean, we saw that with Trump losing the election. Clearly, the COVID pandemic had something to do with that, right?
I actually do have an answer for you, if you don't mind if I butt in here, or do you want to go, Sparky?
Go ahead, Ben.
So, I mean, we've seen it time and time again in the past where something happens and the government sees an opportunity to expand itself by instituting new and different organizations. You know, we saw like Homeland Security, we saw the Patriot Act. We've seen so many times that the government keeps overreaching its bounds. Every time there's something to be taken advantage of, they take advantage of it. Now, while the actual fruits of this may not have come to fruition yet, but I can guarantee you there's going to be some major stuff that we've already seen some of these things coming down the pipeline with like the vaccine passports and forcing people that have like their ID and passports to go into New York City restaurants and stuff like that, where you don't require people to have ID to vote and stuff like that. So it just seems like there's things.
This was a state
All you have to do is
but
take
that
a
state
picture
is still the government, right?
Wait, stop.
The point of what
let me hear Biggs finish. Jesus.
Yeah, basically what I'm saying is we've seen time and time again that the government there's a problem, the government takes advantage of that problem, they grow, and then they never relinquish those powers back. It happens all the time.
The government didn't do the vaccine passports in New York. That was a state implemented thing. The federal government is not implementing vaccine passports. I believe that they can't do that. The state, however, there's plenty of Okay, well maybe they can. If they could, that'd be dope. But
just because it's smaller government doesn't mean it's not government, okay? It's still
I don't care if it's smaller government.
It's fine. I'm
fine
talking
with
about all government.
Passports.
That's fine.
I think vaccine passports are based.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think
what about voter ID then?
Wear a scarlet letter for the diseases they carry that are terminal.
You need ID to go into a restaurant, but not to vote?
Why would you do that?
Because they're a risk to public health.
How are they a risk to public health? How's someone like with cancer or something with risk of public health?
Yeah.
Cancer, no. Syphilis, gonorrhea, any
diseases transferred.
This guy everybody's so dishonest, but it's just fun.
Partners, if you have that, by the
way. Wait, no.
Not in the state of California.
The point of the vaccine.
You don't have to anymore.
Yeah, you do.
No, you don't. They decriminalize
If you are
it.
willingly spreading an infection,
don't get into the nitty-gritty details.
You're right.
Don't get into the details because
it's completely off the side of the point. The overall point here is that this was a state thing when it came to the vaccine passports. And what
I know,
and what
it's great,
Biggs
and I
is
think I'm
saying
owning.
is overall appealing to conspiracy. Yes, it's this idea that now first it was COVID, now it's the lockdowns, now it's the passports. The government has nothing to gain from any of this. Like
it's not about government gain, though. See, here's
it about? What's it about?
Wait. Can we? Hunter, you were trying to go on a spiel, but you were cut off for a second. Can you finish, and then we'll have Sparky respond?
I'm good. I want to hear what he was going to say.
Sparky.
So really, the government itself, the government's going to keep its power, and it has the means of force to actually keep that. Who really gets enriched, who really gets empowered by all these overreaches are the politicians and their families. When you look at things like, I don't know, the war in Iraq, who most benefited from that? Well, our current president, his brother was one of the main contractors over there. Here's the thing. When you are in power, you can actually move contracts over to certain people. It's very easy to do. And people can enrich their families this way. We see this all the time.
You better be careful with what you're saying there.
Let's the rich get all that money back, and then we'll be good, right?
Wait. How is that happening with COVID, though? Even if I took everything that you just said was true, what does that have to do with COVID?
So there's one guy, I'm trying to remember his name. He worked for the CDC, left the CDC in 2021, and actually now is, I believe, serving on the board at Pfizer. It's interesting
The
that Pfizer's
FDA
the only
guy?
one.
So
Yeah,
what? So fucking what? He was
Hold
voted
on.
onto. He was
He was
voted onto
voted
the
on.
board. He was
And
voted onto the board.
isn't it interesting that the Pfizer vaccine is the only one that's received FDA approval right now? That
No.
is a little. No, it isn't. Okay,
It's not.
Uh,
It
never
qualified
mind the
faster.
fact.
It went through.
Never mind the fact that
Yeah.
Moderna is just as successful and everything
Okay.
else. There's a lot of reasons to be skeptical. There's nothing wrong with being skeptical.
You
Look,
can be
I
skeptical,
tell
but it's
people
appealing to
all the time-
conspiracy.
I tell people all the time, you talk to your doctor. They're the ones that actually know you best. You know,
Yeah,
I'm
a
just
lot
a
of
guy
times
on
we're
the
bad
internet
for
with
working class.
freaking opinions and shit. I don't tell people how
No,
to
because then they'll
decide their
throw it
life.
around that no, it's
You
good for the
shouldn't
working
either.
class.
So when it comes down to it, Hunter Avalon,
I got to give some other
where
people a
is
chance
your
to talk.
where is your multiple doctorates in virology and everything else? You don't have one.
I don't
It's
need to
just like
have
I
one to
don't.
He
recognize
doesn't need
that
to have one.
vaccines have been proven overall
I
positive
just
and
love
effective
Demon
in
Machine.
preventing
He's so
COVID.
animated
And
over
If
that.
a
It's
state
great.
wants to implement vaccine mandates or vaccine passports, they are completely within their right to do so. If you want to look at the court precedent, it is there, my friend. It's been there for the last 100 years or so. Even Massachusetts, I think it was the first state to do so, had a vaccine mandate. That would be fucking based. I say we mandate vaccine. Every state that can should fucking do it. Go the Texas route. The way that they did the Texas thing with banning abortion, do that same loophole, the my private rights effective thing, whatever they did, the loophole they took advantage of, do that with the vaccine mandates. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
It was
okay.
like the
Cool.
Sinopharm vaccine.
Actually,
I don't know anything about that, so
disagree with
I
that.
can't
think
ask
the
about
burden
that
of
because
proof is
I
pretty
don't know.
extreme there, and the private person would have to like actually find out and prove that in a court of law. So
I don't think the individual has to justify a damn thing. Look, because there's many reasons.
Yeah, my
there's-
body, my
Court of
choice. That's
law,
right.
So
Well, it
that's
comes
a
down
really
to this.
hard battle for.
There are several things that can keep people from getting a vaccine. There are people who have medical conditions. There's other people that actually have religious exemptions. You know, I mean, you
That would
don't
be
want
dumb.
to trample on their rights. Well, it doesn't matter what you think, Guy. If anyone asks for your
That's
opinion,
why I'm
I'm
on this
sure I would
panel,
give
to
it
say
to
what I
you.
think, right?
But here it is.
That
What-
would be dumb. Why would your religion demand that you are put in harm's way?
The literal Pope said get vaccinated. Like,
Oh,
Well, someone might be following a different religion. Maybe it's the anti-vax religion where
well, I
they
mean, there's such things
I know
as Christian
Jehovah's
Scientists-
Witnesses aren't allowed to get blood transfusions, so there's an
Yeah.
example of religion.
Christian scientists.
You know,
I mean,
kind of.
It's
Yeah.
the mark of the beast, dude. I actually unironically argued with someone the other day that thought the vaccine was the mark of the beast.
Can I take
So
a second to zoom out on this conversation? So like the idea here is regardless of like vaccines, you can insert anything in there, and the skepticalness based on partisan lines on science and information and data gathering and just the ability just to rule as the governing force that we all elected and voted people in to do. I really want to know because I grew up in Texas. I was in the military, when I was getting all my vaccines, just like you, Aircraft Sparky, like, I was going through the line just like everybody else getting those vaccines. I remember when I was a kid, conservatives, because I grew up around a lot of conservatives, like, oh, that medicine's bullshit because it's not FDA approved, or they would say, the government, the way that we viewed science and data and information, we trusted these institutions. I remember my mother trusting the CDC and poison control to say not to drink bleach, right? Like I trust that. I know that that's what's going to happen if I go and drink that. I may die, right? Because it's caustic. So the idea here is, what do we do? Because like if you go in and assess a situation, let's say you're going into a crisis, right? And I'm going to go ahead and just bring my military background in. You're going in and it's flooding. And you are assessing and you're trying to do a pipe joint to protect that flooding, and then all of a sudden you see a bigger flood from another joint. You better go jump to that other joint and stop that one if you have the opportunity to do it first. Assessing a situation, doing triage type of stuff, or it's the same thing if there's people on the ground. If there's somebody sick and then you're fixing up a little scuff on the arm and somebody's coming in
Right.
with a gashing artery wound, you're going to stop the work that you're doing on that person. You're going to move to the person with a gushing artery wound. I just
A
don't
lot of the-
understand why it's so difficult to understand that government agencies that we have elected into these positions to be able to protect us from basic harms and diseases. These are the things that they've been doing for so long, and we prevented other pandemics from hitting our shores before. And why
Vaccines
now?
have eradicated stuff too.
Yeah, why now? Why is it right now when the humanity is like getting devastated
Because
by
this
this, and we have
vaccine
the
doesn't.
modern miracle of vaccines? Why now can we not look at this and say, look, the unvaccinated death rates in hospital beds right now are extremely, people who are vaccinated in hospital beds are extremely low, and most of the people in the hospitals are unvaccinated. Why can't we just use our common sense eyes for those things as well?
A lot of the skepticism too comes from like a current time of political division, because if you think about it, there are a lot of other places in your life that you do trust, institutions and other aspects in your life that you have complete trust in. You have trust in your car when you drive down the road. You have trust in like food institutions, that they're not going to give you food that has like spit in it or shit in it or whatever. And that too is because of a government agency largely. So there are a lot of certain aspects that we already trust in our life. But
oh my God,
yeah, but I think that
bring up the government and cars together. That is the worst unholy marriage ever. I'm done.
So speed limits, fuck speed limits.
I know, right?
I think
Seatbelts?
Josie
Oh, come on. We got to get those out of there. How do we know those work?
People still die from high rates of speed and vehicle accidents while wearing seatbelts. So
look, when it comes down to it,
got to get rid of those seatbelts. You know what I'm saying? They don't help at all. Am I right?
Love the straw man. Love the straw man.
Okay, wait. I want to move.
It's not. It's actually directly comparable.
Wait. Okay. Next was Pixel on the list to speak, so I'm gonna throw it over to Pixel.
I honestly think that we're kind of missing the point. And I
Right.
think one thing that we haven't addressed yet is that I actually agree with the conservatives here that there has been a large transfer of wealth, right? But the skepticism and distrust thrown towards the government is going in the wrong fucking direction. All of these major corporations are just exploiting a system that is there to be exploited. This is what happens during times of war or times of pandemic, which is also endemic now, right? COVID's not going anywhere. Like, it's not being eradicated, vaccine, no vaccine. COVID's going to be going around every country for the next however long until we all have enough boosters. But people are
Thankfully,
still
we're
going
gonna
to
get some
suffer for a
boosters.
very long
Yes.
time.
I can't wait to
Yeah,
get some booster shots.
I bet.
But I know, but that's a Western-centric view of what's going on. Like, think about it in South Africa, where the vaccination rates are still low. It's like
That's true.
it's
yeah.
worldwide, endemic. People are going to suffer still for a very long time, and the system that is in place right now is going to continue being exploited by companies that are looking for exponential growth.
True. Yeah, big
Which I
pharma.
can
Yeah.
see where the distrust comes from, but it's all misplaced.
Well,
Because
what is that? How does that even have anything to do? Like, okay, first of all, Amazon gained profits because everyone was in lockdown, so of course they're going to be more likely to order shit online. That just
yes,
seems
but
like.
it also increased
But also, like,
the
what is that? Like a
monopolizing.
conspiracy by Bezos? Did he start COVID? What does this have to do with?
Nobody is saying that there's a conspiracy.
No one's even claiming that.
I'm
Nobody's
just
even
saying
claiming
that I
that.
can see how people who have a general distrust of government are looking at the government and blaming the government, but it's wrong because you have to look at the entire system, how it's functioning. The government is just trying to put band-aids on a fucking leaky bucket. They have no idea. They're just trying to patch it all up. Meanwhile, the companies that lobby particular governments are getting richer by the minute. I completely, I see how that happens. I'm just saying.
That's
Well, okay, I'm not
conspiratorial
gonna
even.
have-
I don't know how it is over in Australia, but this idea that these like billionaires are lobbying a bunch of shit during COVID, taking advantage of this isn't even true. I believe if you look at it from a statistic, I don't know how it is in Australia, but if you look at it in
Australia is turning
Australia,
back to the original use as a prison colony. I mean, they are locking down their entire freaking citizenship.
No.
At least in America.
Stop.
I am currently inside in lockdown.
You need to get in here sometime.
Okay. So I heard a comment was made, then everybody jumped in. I would like a response to that comment. So Aircraft Sparky, you brought up Australia's history as a prison colony, and I wanted to give Pixel time to respond to that.
You will find if you don't watch Sky News or any of the reactionary Australian influencers that most people know that being locked down when we were saved a lot of lives. The problem in Australia right now has a lot to do with federal leadership and conflict between
I like
federal and
Aircraft. He's
state
pretty cool.
leadership around vaccine
Aircraft's pretty
rollout.
sweet.
But
Pretty sweet
basically,
dude.
New South Wales decided to go with a more freedom approach, and we still don't have a fast enough vaccine rollout. And because we have the Delta variant, it's going to go so fast that our healthcare system will be overwhelmed. There is no fucking New World Order going on, right? There is no authoritarian whatever. That's not a thing that's happening. But I do understand why people move towards conspiracy, because
You're a nice guy
everybody's
too,
so
Looter,
scared
even though I
right
disagree
now.
with
And when
you.
you're scared, you look for order and you look for places that make sense to put your trust in. And sometimes if you're on Facebook, you find yourself down fucking ivermectin little holes, and then all of a sudden you're in a QAnon conspiracy group. Like, there is
It's true.
No, you do. You
It's
literally
true.
do. You find one conspiracy.
It starts
and then
with Joe
all of a sudden
Rogan,
you're like, and now there is a
then
New
Ben
World Order.
Shapiro, Steven Crowder, and then
Yep.
next thing you know, you're turning into a
No.
horse.
First they
Pixie,
read
it's more-
1984.
I think Pixie. I
and then
think
Joe Rogan said
Pixel. Sorry.
ivermectin.
Yeah, Pixel. I would say that it's not more like the fear drives people to tribalism. That's why people
This is
go
too
into
good.
small groups and
This is
conspiracy.
too
Because when
good.
people are afraid, they just go to the tribe where they feel safe and comfortable. And I think that's where a lot of people rally to conspiracy theories.
Yeah, I
It
agree
could
with
be.
that
I
as well.
think that if you there's a whole bunch of like different psychology that kind of goes into conspiracism. And it's funny too, because there's even been studies done showing how when it comes to general like things in life, I don't know how else to put that, general things in life, people tend to trust facts more than anecdotes. But when it comes to health crises,
Yeah, they read what they
specifically,
want to read, and then
people
they
take
discard what
anecdotes
they
far
don't
more
care
seriously.
about. It's just all
So
dumb.
it's more
They
of
just
the
do whatever
reason why
their
we're seeing like vaccine
bubble
hesitancy, for
says.
example. People aren't convinced by the statistics showing that like it's only a small fraction of people that experience any really long-lasting negative side effects. People instead are just seeing that one blown up scary story
And that is
plastered all over
actually
Fox News.
that is actually one of the interesting things is the long-term side effects. Those are one things that we don't know about. This is actually one of the fastest developed vaccines. In fact, when Donald Trump was still in office, now Vice President Kamala Harris said that she would not take any of the vaccines because it was Trump's vaccine. And now that they won, they're all pushing it. And I guarantee you, many people on this panel were probably thinking the same thing. Well, that's Trump's vaccine. I'm not going to do it.
That's not
When
true.
you look at
That's not true.
oh, cool. Well, when you're looking at things like what's going on in the world, like what is the highest vaccinated country in the world right now? Oh, that's Israel. Israel has what, about 85% vaccinated, and they are having huge outbreaks because the vaccine doesn't prevent
What?
infection
I
or
love cherry
spread.
picking information
Yeah.
too. I
Hold on
love
really
Yeah.
quickly. Hold on really quickly. That was an outright lie. Kamala Harris did not say that she wouldn't take the vaccine under Trump's administration. She said
Thank
she'd take
you.
it once medical professionals confirmed that it worked, not only
Mm-hmm.
on Trump's word. So that was just a complete lie.
So I'm
Good
old
fact
enough
check.
to
Thank you, Xander
remember.
Hall.
I'm
Thank
old
you,
enough
Xander.
to remember Anthony Fauci going on the television and telling everyone you don't need a mask. And it was
Holy
because
shit,
they
dude,
needed,
you are gonna
Hey, hold
wait,
on,
wait, wait,
hold
wait.
on.
I have a
hold
serious
on.
question. Please, I have a very serious question. Did you vote for Donald Trump?
yes.
Okay, so how do you feel about Donald Trump saying that it's not really anything worse than the flu?
I don't care.
How do you know? Do you like? Do you
But
believe
why
him
do
when he
you
says
care?
that? What do you think about that? How do you
I
feel
don't
about that?
believe everything
You know,
everyone
he lied
says.
to us.
Here's-
He on
So
purpose.
you know that it was leaked that he actually knew it was far worse and far more
Yeah,
deadly than the
he
flu,
lied to
right?
us.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
he went on to continue to peddle it and say
Yeah.
it was just as bad as the flu. So do you
And then he
distrust
went
Donald
on
Trump now?
and then he went on to actually tell people to get the vaccine. And
Wait, but
look,
that's
And
no,
he-
no, 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 no. You can't.
No,
wait,
no,
wait,
no,
wait.
no,
Stop,
no, no,
stop.
no.
You're being disingenuous right now because that was before you voted
Hunter
for him.
Avalon, you
So
telling
you're
anyone that they're being disingenuous
Yes,
is
and yes, I'm happy
it
to.
is
And right now, you are the one being
it is
disingenuous.
delicious.
Yes, you're being disingenuous.
I don't
You
take
voted
any
for.
of
Hold on,
my
wait. This is a direct
and-
contradiction, a
Wait,
fundamental
wait.
contradiction.
So we're gonna go have Hunter do his statement. Then we're gonna have Sparky do a statement. I want nobody else to interrupt. I want to see this interaction take place. Hunter, Sparky. Okay, go.
This is a fundamental contradiction in your ideology right here because you voted for the man who blatantly was exposed for lying to the public, to his own supporters. You voted for that person, and now you're trying to flip it and say you don't trust Fauci because he publicly told a lie that he then accounted for and explained for. You voted for Trump, yet don't trust Fauci. Do you see the fundamental contradiction here?
Okay, so here, I'll address your fundamental contradiction. When you're in positions of authority and leadership, sometimes you do have to downplay things. It is actually
So now you
one of the things.
justify it.
Hold on, hold on. But when it comes to
Okay,
someone like
sorry.
Fauci, when it comes to someone like Fauci, who is not an elective official, who is nothing more than a bureaucrat, he has spent his entire life working for the government. He is a drone.
He's been in that
drone.
position. That should mean something positive to you. He worked with fucking Reagan, dude. He's been here since the beginning. Like, you should look at him as a positive thing.
He's been here since Reagan. That's a problem.
But that's because he's an epidemiologist. You not understand how research works and science works.
Well,
You
No,
want
he
somebody
doesn't.
with
How research
experience.
works.
You want somebody with experience to do this stuff, okay?
So you
Because
didn't
don't
address
want-
my.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I'm sorry. I
No,
completely interrupted.
fine.
I apologize. I was just going to respond to
fine.
Sparky. Is it? Yeah. You didn't even address my fundamental contradiction that I pointed out. You just said when you're in positions of power. So okay, so
Yes.
Fauci, he's in a position of power. He has a lot of influence on him, so he kind of had to tell the lie. So overall, that kind of sucks. But you should really trust him and get the vaccine, right? Because if you're going to vote for Trump, then you should also be willing to, be consistent across the board, right?
No, because I don't just use some politician to determine what type of medical practices I'm going to
Then
follow.
what do you use?
But
Usually I talk to a doctor, someone who is actually,
So
trained in
every
that, who
doctor
knows
is
me,
saying take a vaccine.
who actually knows me. Well, no, I've
Problem
actually had a
is,
doctor
in
tell
a
me not
panel
to,
like this,
because
you
I've had
can't get
adverse
like down
reactions
to the
Found a doctor
nitty
to
that
gritty.
other
told you not
vaccines.
to, or you're
No,
a
well, hold
I
on,
didn't
hold on.
find a doctor.
There might be
It's not like
reasons.
it's not like I'm hunting for a diagnosis. It's because I've had problems with vaccines in the past, and
Sure.
people
So
are
there
going.
might be good reasons. I think
So-
the only good reason not to get vaccinated really would be if your doctor specifically personally told you don't get vaccinated. Of course, you got to listen to your doctor. Or if you're going to if you're going to die by taking it, you're immunocompromised, have an allergy, whatever. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about his fundamental contradiction that I think that you're trying to weasel away from, honestly.
No,
Because yes,
The
because
anthrax vaccine was shit.
you have voted
Yes, it
for
was.
you voted for Donald Trump, a man who lied to his followers and was exposed behind the scenes for knowing it was more deadly. Like, this is like a new level of conspiracy. If this was Fauci, if leaked audio came out showing Fauci was like, and then I'm gonna tell them this thing, yada yada yada, you would be
Yeah.
fucking losing your mind.
Actually, I
But-
didn't even have that much of a problem with the Fauci emails when they came out.
But it was a
I-
dynamic.
You just brought up the fact that Fauci lied about the masks, and that's your that's your reason
And
for
he's
not
lied
trusting.
about multiple things is a problem. 6 weeks ago,
So why do you not
said
trust
that
him but
lab
trust
leak-
Donald Trump? I don't care about any
Actually,
of
I
this. I'm
don't
asking
trust
only.
either of them.
Wait,
That's
wait.
the problem.
You voted for Donald Trump.
It
You have
doesn't
to
matter.
trust him a
You
little
voted
bit.
for Biden, didn't
Okay.
you?
Okay.
Yes,
You
but
trust
this is
him?
such a and I would
Wait,
stand
I
by
do,
it, but
I
you're
do, I
walking
do.
back
Okay.
everything right now. This is so cowardly.
Okay. We're gonna move on because we don't have much time left in this topic. I want Turk to speak, and then we're probably gonna wrap it up and move on to the next topic. Turk.
Yeah, so just brief going into what's currently talked about. If y'all want to hold Trump accountable for the things that he said that happen to be proven false in the future time, I would expect that y'all would also be holding Fauci to equal levels of accountability because he was proven factually false also in this dynamic situation known as COVID. So let's be consistent, guys. Y'all should expect Fauci to be gone.
It's like,
Okay. We're gonna go into ending statements now. We're gonna go around the room, say your last thoughts on the topic. We're gonna start in the bottom right-hand corner with Xander Hall.
Yeah, I wish I lived in the world these conservatives do. I wish I lived in the same world as them because they seem to think that they're these freedom fighters fighting against some shadowy cabal running things that want to perpetuate this pandemic and push out vaccines that turn your arm magnetic or whatever. I give no more credence to the validity of any statement made by an anti-vaxxer than I would to a flat earther, a climate change denier, or people who think that the sun is actually a satellite made by aliens that gives us all sun cancer, and that's how they're trying to exterminate humans. Okay, I give no credence to these people. There's so many lies that have already been told here. I called out a few of them, but there were just too many that I had no chance to interrupt and butt in on. But yeah, I mean, like at the beginning of the segment, anyone who denies the efficacy of vaccines and wants to be a bitch about it with their little beta boy immune system, I feel no sympathy for them if they get COVID.
Okay. Next is going to be the Turk.
Yeah, so I still believe that vaccines are effective. The data proves that getting the vaccine does actually help you not get hospitalized. And if you do, it's usually a lower risk symptoms, and you typically get out of the hospital a lot faster. So I don't disagree with any of these people. And I'm the counter proof to what Xander Hall just said, that all these conservatives are boogeymen thinking, oh, anti-vax. That's not how the majority of people actually think. But I will say that if we are to start healing wounds as a society, we should be compassionate to even the people that are very dumb and
Yes,
decide
the
to
mask
take
keeps slipping
ivermectin
off
because they heard it
more
on a
and more.
blog somewhere. Yeah, it's a really stupid move, but show some sympathy, show some basic humanity, and don't be an evil Xander Hall.
I will continue to be an evil Xander Hall.
All right. We're going to throw it over to Pixel Smexel.
Look, get vaccinated. I think at the end of the day, I truly believe in your personal freedom, your choice to get vaccinated or not. But you have to live with the consequences of that. If you are,
Yeah, I'm definitely going to bring up about
not taking a vaccine
the
has so
vaccines
much
not
wider
being
effect than anything else you could possibly
accountability
do. If you are
ridden.
one of the people taking up a hospital bed because you didn't get vaccinated, it is not people that will just die of COVID. It is people that need that bed for other health issues. These are the unreported deaths that go untalked about because they're not official COVID deaths. But there are many people that are going to die because unvaccinated people are taking
I
up
don't know if
hospital
that's
beds.
true.
That's just a fact. That's something
I
that
don't
you
know
have
about
to live
that.
with.
I don't
And
know about that being a
honestly
fact,
can't
but
make that decision for myself, which is why I got vaccinated. Get vaccinated. Like, it's really,
don't listen to any internet on the.
it's really just, that's it. That's all I gotta say.
Okay. Next, we're going to throw it over to Josie Rose.
Okay, so I'm not going to repeat a lot that has been said, but I just want people to really take away the idea of data science
I
and
know,
how
you're just
difficult it is to
selfish.
collect data. And I wanted to make this point earlier when Pixel said it about how institutions are designed to take data, do scientific clinical research, and they've been doing this for years. It is something that is very, very important to take into account when we're talking the CDC, because the CDC is not one person. I do work with the CDC, and I deal with a lot of different people from a lot of different departments that are doing a lot of different research, from HIV to substance abuse to COVID to all these different things, because they're massive organizations that have millions of dollars from our tax dollars to research to protect us. And if we can't trust the institutions that protect us, we need to reevaluate what information we're using that you plan on that is going to protect us. Because for me, I feel like a lot of bad faith is on this panel because it's just an automatic hatred for anything that the government touches. And that isn't the way that you run any civilized nation. And if we want to be able to fight and win and survive, thrive as a humanity, then we should probably trust the institutions that we have put in charge to keep us safe. They've been doing it for over 250 years, and it's time for us to continue that process moving forward than burning it all to the ground with no backing of any historical institutional knowledge.
Okay. And we're going to move it over to Hunter Avalon. That was Josie Rose just talking.
Sure. So I'll start with just reading this little blurb from Healthline. The unvaccinated population is at high risk for infection. If this variant continues to move quickly, especially in areas of low vaccination rates, the U.S. could see a surge in SARS-CoV-2 infection. There are also multiple studies linked here. I'd be happy to put this in the Discord. The first one checked out how the vaccine stands up against the Delta variant. This was an analysis carried out by Public Health England, so let's not get too feisty here, accusing this of being the government or something. The vaccine appeared to be about 88% effective against symptomatic disease and 96% effective against hospitalization with the Delta variant. There are an array of studies done. Some found not as good as high results. Some found just as high results. Either way, we know one thing that's for certain. Getting vaccinated lowers your risk of getting COVID, and it lowers your risk of dying in the hospital from COVID-19. As someone who has had family members literally die from COVID-19, I ask everyone watching, get vaccinated. We can trust these institutions. Part of the reason that we can trust them is because the fact that there are multiple people there, that keeps them in check. That holds people much more accountable. That's why these large institutions have existed successfully for so long. So that's all I really have to say on this issue. Get vaccinated. Other than the two things I said earlier, if you don't get vaccinated, I think you're dumb. Bye.
Okay, now I'm gonna throw it over to Demon Machine.
Oh, I don't care what you do. If you want to get vaccinated, get vaccinated. If that's what you want to do, if you're older or something like that, trust your doctor, trust your own decision making, trust whoever you fucking want to. If you die from whatever reason, you have my sympathies. I will do anything I can to help you from dying. And I think it should be in your hands because you only get one life. It's the one that you have, not the government's life, not anybody else's life, not that life over there. You get one. So use it wisely. Try to do what you can. Other than that, I really just, the topic was sympathy for people who didn't want to get vaccinated. And yeah, I'll have sympathy for anybody.
Okay. Next, I'm going to throw it over to Biggs. And as a hype train is coming along, I'd appreciate any support to the channel from anybody in chat. It takes a while to put these together, and it really helps out the channel. I'm going to throw it over to Biggs.
Thank you. Yeah, everybody, you guys throw him a follow or some bits. Dylan provides this awesome content every day of the week, pretty much. So show him you enjoy it by throwing him a few shekels. But as far as the vaccine goes, if you're listening to people on the internet, that's the dumbest thing you can do, right? Whether it's Joe Rogan or fucking us on the panel here, talk to a doctor, talk to a professional, find out what the right path is for you, and then just make your decision from there. As far as being sympathetic, I think we should be sympathetic to everybody if they're in pain, if they're suffering. I think that's just like a part of humanity. I think most of the people on here, even if they say they don't, I think they probably deep down do feel sympathy just because it's just innate to human nature. But again, listen to your doctors, do what you think is right, and that's basically it.
Okay, and now we're going to throw it over to Aircraft Sparky.
All right, look, with the whole should you have sympathy, man, that is a personal decision, just like getting a vaccine. If you're curious about the vaccine, talk to your doctor, someone who actually knows who you are, knows your medical history and everything, and listen to them because they probably know more about you than, well, any of us do. So don't take any of our advice on vaccines whatsoever. And damn sure don't sit there and self-medicate yourself with anything that you can get over the counter.
Right.
Talk to your doctor. There's alternative uses for a lot of medications. So when people go horse paste, yeah, there is some truth there, but there's more to it than that. Look,
that's funny.
Just be decent. Be a decent person.
That's
if
funny.
someone happens to pass away that you know because of COVID, vaccinated or unvaccinated, you should probably feel sympathy for their family. And if you felt like they got what they deserved, well, I mean, you may want to keep that to yourself. If you're not willing to say it to someone's face, you probably shouldn't say it at all.
Hell yeah,
well,
Sparky,
look at
hell
it.
yeah.
Thank you.
How can I say it to their face if they're dead?
Say it to their brother or sister. See how that one works out for you there, big guy.
Okay, so any statements are done. So we're gonna move on to the next topic.
Is hilarious.
Oh, and for everybody in chat, since everybody has stopped looking at Afghanistan, I just want to update everybody in chat on the Panjshir resistance and the Panjshir Valley. It seems that the Taliban are attempting another offensive, and I know a lot of my community really care about that. I just wanted to say that another offensive is being attempted at the moment, and apparently it's not going as smooth as the Taliban wanted, and they've lost a few hundred fighters to snipers and machine gun fire and tanks that were confiscated in the Panjshir Valley. Wanted to update people in chat. But of course, the spokesperson for the organization said the situation is dire, and the Taliban are putting on a good face, saying it has been conquered, and the next few days might decide that, depending on how the battle goes.
Who are they fighting?
What was that? Oh, they're fighting the son of the famous resistance leader during the Soviet invasion. They're Masood. I never know how to pronounce his name, but the former vice president of Afghanistan has declared themselves to be the president of Afghanistan.
So this is like the Afghan government resistance.
Yes, in the Panjshir Valley. There's about like
8,000
of them.
Which side I'm rooting for here?
Northern Alliance, right? Northern Alliance.
It's a combination of former government fighters, native Tajiks. They recently Tajikistan even airdropped them guns, bombs, and food. as they defend the Panjshir Valley. Just wanted to give everybody a news update since it's not getting a lot of attention in the media at the moment, that there is resistance still in Afghanistan against the Taliban. Now we're going to move on to the next topic, which is going to be fun.
More Afghanistan.
It has to do with what's going on in Texas right now. So in Texas, a restrictive law having to do with abortion has been put in place that has to do with past 6 weeks in pregnancy. And there has been some very, precise, how the law has been extremely maneuverable and flexible in how it was created, so that it is private citizens who enforce it through what you could call like $10,000 bounties. So it's not
I
the
hope
government
everybody
going
agrees.
out.
I really
and,
do.
like,
I
trying
really
to
hope
enforce it, but
everybody
they want
agrees this
private
abortion
citizens
bill's
to
banned.
sue individuals who assist others in getting abortions. And so many people are calling this a de facto abortion ban. Others are calling this the protection of life because of their position on abortion. And I wanted to give it up to the channel to debate this topic. We have actually not debated abortion on this channel ever. And so this will be the first time we've ever touched a topic on the Hippy Dippy Roundtable before. I know it's an extremely divisive
Awesome.
topic, and I'm
That's
asking
cool to be
everybody
a part
to
of the
please
first
treat it
time.
with the care that it deserves, considering how much emotions are involved. So we're going to start in the bottom left-hand corner with Pixel Smixel.
Well, I am staunchly pro-choice. I think at the end of the day, the people who say they're pro-life actually do not reflect that in their actions even slightly. I also think that a lot of people who identify as conservative often talk all about their personal freedoms until it
That's
comes
pretty base.
to
You got some
women.
pretty base conservative friends.
And that makes me really uncomfortable because I believe that women should have equal rights to men. And I don't think the government should get a say in what I do and do not do with my body. I have a lot of other pro-choice positions. I'm very interested to hear the perspectives on this channel. But yes, it'll be an interesting conversation, that's for sure. But yes, staunchly pro-choice.
Okay, I'm going to throw it over to the Turk, who is a native of Texas, I believe, a Texas native.
Favorite son. So yeah, so I find that your stances, Pixel, this is just opening topic, of your stances in the previous conversation to this one are pretty astounding. So I'm hoping that we get to talk about that a little bit more. This is not an outright ban. There are plenty of options up to 6 weeks that can be accomplished, right? You can still do morning after. You can still do pre 6 week abortions. There are still options. And there's also options.
She fell out of her chair.
So it's like, it's not a complete ban. Everyone's saying it is. It's not. That's factually incorrect. But I will say we should have compassion on this. And I wish there was a different solution in order to help these people that have made bad choices in their life. We were talking about having personal responsibility when it comes to the vaccine and stuff. So it's like, I could go in a bunch of different avenues on this conversation. So I'm looking forward to a good debate.
Yeah, it's
also
it's funny the flip floppiness.
It's not what's considered the Northern Alliance right now. It's called the National Resistance Front of Afghanistan in English. I wanted to throw it over to Xander Hall.
Yeah, I mean this new law is unconstitutional. I think it's dog shit. I'm pro-choice, obviously. The Turk, I think it was, I have a hard time with names, just brought up that there are other ways to deal with pregnancy prior to the 6 week cutoff for the law. But I want to point out that most women probably wouldn't even know that they're pregnant until that point, considering that maybe you regularly miss periods or you don't regularly take pregnancy tests. By the point where this cutoff is made, many women might not even know that they're pregnant yet. It's pretty common. So you're basically taking away the opportunity for many people to be unable to
Isn't
get
it
that
funny
service.
how when
Not
it's
to mention, the
unconstitutional
law
and they
does
don't
not
like
make
it, it's
any
fine, but if it's
exceptions for
unconstitutional
people
and they
who
like
have
it,
been
it's fine
impregnated
too?
through rape or
Interesting.
incest, which is, I imagine, as many people here would probably agree, not a good thing.
Okay, now I'm going to throw it over to Josie Rose.
Okay. So first off, I just warn all men on here to like start talking about women biology and pregnancy because like 6 weeks is not a lot of time. And they chose arbitrary heartbeat as the reason why, which is completely just not scientific because of the way that that whole process works. But the thing that scares me, you put your hands up all you want, Turk, but you're wrong. So the fact of the matter is, what concerns me the most about this is how Texas pushed this through. There are women right now that had rights, and then the anti-choice people came around and said, "No, you don't."
That's funny.
And when we're talking about these things, when we're talking about choice and all of these bodily autonomy things, when we talk about the previous conversation, all of a sudden that we can take rights away from people. The government can go ahead and mandate these things. They can go ahead and go into smoke-filled rooms and hold special sessions for loopholes
Smoke-filled
to pass the
rooms.
most heinous bills because they know they wouldn't be able to pass them in a public election system, that they have to go in and break the rules. There's a lot of women that are going to be very shocked in a couple weeks when they realize they can no longer get an
I was going to take
abortion
her
because
side,
not
but after hearing her,
everybody
maybe I
watches the
won't
news like
anymore.
us. That is going to be tragic and disgusting to know that this is going to be happening, and all because the anti-choice people wanted their way.
Okay, I'm going to throw it over to Hunter Avalon.
Sure. So I'm very much in the middle with this kind of an issue. I am surprisingly not very emotionally attached to this issue.
'Cause you're a
I
dude.
consider myself pro-life in the sense that I find abortion to be morally wrong. I would not get an abortion myself. However, I like to look at this just on a practical sense, and that is abortion restrictions don't tend to do what they are setting out to do. So usually the goal of
Vote
these
with your
abortion
feet and
restrictions
fucking
are
move.
defended by people like, we have to protect the fetuses, et cetera, et cetera. And I understand that because I think that there is value, intrinsic value to human life developing in the womb as well. But abortion restrictions don't really work in actually reducing abortion. Even though it sounds like it should, it doesn't usually play out that way. A better way is providing contraceptive access. So instead of these like strange sort of like restrictive abortion policies in states that don't really work, it would be better to instead try and work with something in the healthcare, provide more contraceptives. Just really quickly to substantiate my claim, I have here some statistics showing how abortion rates actually
He's
stay
got
relatively
statistics.
similar in
There is
countries
true.
where it's
I did look.
completely
I
restricted
did look at
and
that.
in countries
I did
where
look
it's
at that as well.
broadly legal. Like
Yeah.
restricted areas don't actually see a large decrease, but you do see an uptick, an estimated 23,000 per year preventable pregnancy-related deaths because of unsafe conditions due to illegal abortions. So if the pro-life goal is to reduce death, then the better option here is not restrictive abortion policies, but instead better access to contraceptives. And lastly, I don't want to take up too much time, but lastly, for the conservatives here, you should take into account that this loophole they're using, this private right of enforcement thing, this can be used to set an extremely dangerous precedent on things that you would be very much against. This could warrant other people reporting you if you're not quarantining or wearing your mask, or this could be used on gun owners. This could be turned against people. This could allow citizens to sue other people for social media posts. This could allow all kinds of dangerous precedent, especially with the way that the court has ruled thus far. So that's what I would leave for the conservatives watching. But yeah.
Okay. Now I'm going to throw it over to Demon Machine.
Oh, I mean, I thought it was as long as it's a law that a state made, then it doesn't matter. Sorry. Sideways. I don't like abortion because the question is always, where does life begin? And nobody can really come to a good consensus or agreement on that because we don't know whether life begins at actual conception, like when the thing's like attached to the wall, or anyway. So, oh my God, how can he have such a weird ass take? But generally, I would like to protect
Hey,
humans. So
just
it's
ask
kind of
Peabody. Thank you for the
very
follow. How
difficult
you
thing to answer.
doing?
I
Good to see you.
don't know if I really like the law. I tried to look at it some, but it's rather confusing when I was reading it as to what it was, because I couldn't find the actual law itself. I could only find everybody's articles about it, and I didn't have a lot of time to look into it yet. Anyway,
can I post the bill?
Yeah, you can post the link in chat if you want to, but it's Demon Machine's time.
No, that's fine. I don't care. People can interrupt me all day. If I go too long, I'll just sit here and ramble. But basically, I would prefer not to have abortions. I don't really have a dog in that fight, so I generally just try to stay out of it most of the time. And That's that.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it over to Biggs.
Yeah, so kind of like what Turk said before, I do find it interesting that the people on the left here have a, when you draw a direct correlation from like an actual like death occurring versus like the vaccine issue with it like being, not necessarily tied to an individual person. I just find that a little bit interesting. But I actually do agree with the left on this issue. My personal take is I don't think anybody should ever get an abortion. I would never want anybody to have to go through anything like that. I've seen personally in my life just what a miscarriage can do. So I would not wish that kind of decision on any person. But I also don't think the government should have any say in what people do. My personal take is I don't necessarily think a fetus at that level is, a few weeks old is necessarily protected under the rights of our, being an actual, being that deserves rights under the state versus the person, the mother. I think what we have now with Roe v. Wade is probably as good as we're going to get with at sustainability of the fetus is kind of like where that line is now, and I think that's probably like the best we're going to get. But as far as the bill goes, this bill is complete garbage. I totally agree with Hunter on this. The fact that we're putting something out there that can have such ramifications down the road with just like allowing private citizens to sue that have absolutely no issue to do with what's happening, I think that's just absolutely absurd. I don't understand how they can even how that would even work under like damages and stuff like that, because you actually have like there's no actual like culpability to the actual person suing. So I have no idea how that would actually work in reality. And then the fact that they're actually offering a bounty, they're basically giving a reward for people knocking out other people because they had an abortion. So not only is this person already going through a tumultuous time and a terrible time in their lives, now you have people actually basically taking like a hit out on them to get a financial gain. I think that's completely terrible. I think this whole bill was something they should have never done. I think this is just something that's just going to be bad all around, and I can't believe it's actually stayed as long as it has. I'm surprised the Supreme Court let it continue and they didn't put a hold or an injunction on it. I think that's absolutely just ridiculous because this bill is just bad news all around. And I think from like even the conservative side, this like Hunter said, it opens up a whole new can of worms from all different avenues. So I just think this is bad practice. I think that what they did, like Josie said, this was just them trying to push something through, trying to skate around the Constitution to try to get their end goal in mind. I think that's just terrible, and I think we need to fight against this.
Okay, now we're gonna throw it over to Aircraft Sparky. Aircraft Sparky, you give the last statement. I have to go use the bathroom, and I don't want to leave during this debate because it's gonna be heavily moderated. So do not begin until I get back because I don't trust any of you on this topic. Okay, Aircraft, your opening statement.
Wow, that gives me a lot of time to talk, but I'm not going to filibuster. It's just not my way. So before I start, I'm an abortion abolitionist. I actually believe that abortion is just morally wrong.
Thank you for the follow.
Human life begins at conception.
I appreciate it.
So there you go,
so
Turk.
much.
I'll go ahead and tell you exactly where it begins. But people will disagree with me, and that's completely fine.
I'm going to go to the bathroom
when
as well.
this law was passed, it was done a little sneaky. And Hunter, you were absolutely right. This can be used for other backdoors for other things later down the road. The reason why the Supreme Court actually turned it down, from what I can tell, it was such an imaginative and different way of approaching that they wanted to actually see it argued out in the lower courts. I kind of agree with that, and I kind of understand that. I am happy.
I could. Oh, I'm sorry. This is your opening statement.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yes. So I am happy that it was passed, but I'm still like side-eyeing it, right? I'm like, something about this feels a little bit sneaky, a little underhanded, and I don't appreciate that. But I think that overall, I think we need to return back to the whole states' rights issue of abortion. One thing, and I'm not really an MRA, but this does play into the MRA's little game of tricks, because now the actual father of the would-be child actually has a little bit of a say. They could dangle that lawsuit over the woman's head in order to hold off on her getting the abortion. So I mean, maybe there's a little bit of men's rights in there, but I do believe it was sneaky. But all the same, I am an abortion abolitionist, so I'd like for it all to end, because you don't kill innocent children. And thank you.
Okay, can I respond?
Can I? Hold on.
Okay,
wait.
Can we
let
stop?
Let me in.
No. Okay. So What we're gonna do is everybody's gonna raise their hand, and I'm gonna give it to who I want to give it to. Okay? If you want to respond to that, raise your hand right now. Okay. I'm gonna give it to Pixel.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. As a uterus haver, I appreciate that a lot. Very interesting. I will just hypothetically say I give you the fact that you believe that life begins at conception. At what point do you force someone to their own detriment to keep another human being alive? How are you deciding which life is morally more important? Right? How are you deciding that legitimately?
Okay. So what do you mean to their own detriment? I'm being specific for a reason. So are you talking about actual health of the mother, like the mother may actually pass away, or are you talking about financial or something like that?
Okay, well, if you want to talk about the law and its specifics, right? It bans abortion at 6 weeks. Some genetic tests that you do, you can't do until like after the 6-week period, right? So you're not even going to know. You could have a baby with spina bifida, right? And where the spine is connected to the head and they will never breathe. They will survive maybe 2 minutes outside of the... It's not eugenics.
It's eugenics.
It is legitimately...
It is not.
The safety of the mother, right? It is the safety of the mother going through a pregnancy with that sort of thing going on is extremely dangerous. So how are you deciding which life is more important? Because what is your reasoning here? If you are I honestly, I can't believe you call yourself pro-life if you are not willing to care for the lives of women. You are pro-birth, nothing else.
Well, okay. So here's the thing. If the mother's life is in danger, now there's actually something I am willing to go, yes, abortion is completely fine, because without the mother, there is a huge problem that the child will experience, and it will be detrimental to the child. But when you're talking about, oh, well, they might have Downs or something. Well, that is basically eugenics. That is selective abortion. And I just find that immoral and reprehensible.
Why do you prioritize the body of the fetus over the body of the mother when we're talking about the subject of vaccines? You seem to pretty obviously prioritize your choice and your right to autonomy over other people.
Fine, fair question. So when it comes down to the vaccine doesn't prevent infection nor the spread. It lowers the actual symptoms of it. When it comes to abortion, you are
That's wrong,
actually
by the way, Mr.
hold on.
No, she's right. That's false.
I'll let Sparky finish,
Yeah,
and then
that's
I'll
false.
let Turk respond to that.
When it comes down to it, when an abortion happens, in my view, you are affecting another individual. Now, it's a semantic argument, because you're going to say, oh, well, it's just a clump of cells. Well, we're all just
No, I'm
clumps of
not.
cells.
No, I'm pro-life.
Oh, okay.
Yo, you're forgetting I'm pro-life here.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm just
I'm
saying,
sorry. I'm not trying to misrepresent you. But most of the arguments are, oh, well, it's just a clump of cells or something, idiotic like that. No, I believe it is a human life, and I believe that life cannot defend itself or speak for itself. Therefore, it should be given a little bit more weight and advocacy. That's it.
What about the people that can't speak for themselves, that are more like susceptible to disease? Like, I feel like you don't apply this logic evenly. I largely agree with you that, like, in an ideal situation, people won't have to get an abortion, but it just seems like this is another contradiction in like your ideology here, because it seems very much my body, my choice when we're talking vaccines, but then when we're talking about abortion, you don't prioritize the autonomy of the woman's body.
Well, no, I prioritize a woman's body, but all at the same time, I am not going to sit there and go, oh, well, you can just dump whatever poison into you. When you decide to have sex, you make a choice. And I'm talking about consensual sex. I'm not even discussing the rape or incest deal right now. When you make the decision to have sex, consequences, good, bad, or indifferent, comes with that. So with that, you can get an STI. So the guy should probably wear a condom, and there's a chance of pregnancy involved. So the woman should be on birth control, and there's multiple different forms of that. In fact, many of them are actually free, especially at the Texas.
So you're for more contraceptives. This is good.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with contraceptives.
I'm just surprised that you voted for Trump, because Trump cut the ACA, and thanks to the ACA, we've seen massive decreases in abortion because of access to contraceptives.
I voted for Trump because of a lot of the policies that he instituted that I liked. There's a lot of things about him that I did not like.
Let's not talk about Trump.
But we're not here to talk about Trump.
We'll
We're
let
talking about
Sparky finish,
abortion.
and then I'm moving it over to Turk.
So I hope I answered to the best of my, I hope my stance is a little bit more clear for you there.
Turk.
So that Dylan doesn't get banned from the greatest platform that's ever been on the internet. Getting the vaccine does not protect you from transmitting the disease. It prevents the severity of the disease that you contract. You can still spread COVID once you come into contact with someone that spreads it, and your viral load can still pass the pathogen onto other people. So there you go. But I will say that one of the things that I find interesting about this choice thing is when it comes to spreading COVID to someone has the choice of wearing a mask or not going outside or taking care of their own self in order to not contract COVID. The innocent, whatever you want to call it, we can debate when life starts, doesn't get that choice. And that's sad. And I think there's better ways this bill could have been written to better uh, facilitate some of these concerns that we all have on this panel, because it's clearly a very sensitive topic. And I think Texas did a bad job of answering the sensitive topic.
Okay.
Just to really quickly, if I could say, part of the thing he said about
Josie, then Zan.
All right, part of the thing he said about fully vaccinated people still being able to spread. That's true that if you are fully vaccinated and then there is a breakthrough case and then you get infected, you might still be infectious, but you have to be infected with COVID in order to spread COVID. And it lowers your risk of first contracting COVID. So in turn, it does reduce the spread of COVID. Again, there's a reason why we're seeing rates of COVID. Thankfully, well, we're not really seeing them decline, but I can send you this chart here showing the COVID rates and the hospitalization rates among unvaccinated, if you'd like. But either way, yeah, it prevents you from getting COVID to begin with. So I just wanted to kind of correct the record there. But anyway, we can move on.
Okay.
One quick question: at what point are you infectious?
Oh my God, we're not talking about COVID right now.
Well,
Yeah,
he pointed out the thing.
I do. I understand that, but we did just have like a huge topic on vaccines, and I do kind of want to make sure we stay on topic here. So I'm gonna use executive authority and push it to Josie to talk about this topic, and we can move off of vaccines.
Okay. So first off, there is so much of a human toll here, and the fact of the matter is, there are young girls that are going to be forced to have children that they were not ready for, and their lives are going to possibly be disrupted for that in their own way. There are women who don't have the means to leave the state of Texas that are going to be forced to have these children. The reality is these are real human lives. Birth control doesn't always work. Contraceptions don't always work. Birth control, abortions are usually the last option for most women. You look at these statistics and you'll see this. It's very, very common that most people who are getting abortions didn't get a chance to, the contraceptive didn't work. They missed the pill. The condom fell off. Those things happen, and there's no compassion for these women that are dealing with these things. And one of the things I used to do when I was talking to anti-choice people that don't want people to have choice over their body, is the fact that I always followed it up with like, so what do you do with the woman? Because you've been levying pretty big words as well. Our Aircraft Sparky is like killing children. Well, the law for killing children is to put people in prison. So what's the next step? Advocating for women to be put in prison? How long do we make that sentence for? Why is it all of a sudden when we use words that have moral implications like murder, the charge that people want to charge women are so much less? The fact of the matter is this is very, very intrusive, has no compassion for women, and this isn't going to be solved with just like more contraception. We need contraception, but that isn't the answer. The answer is safe, legal access to abortion. And if people care about human life, guess what? Before Roe v. Wade, coat hanger abortions were real, and women died and bled out in the alleyways because of that. This is the real thing. People are still going to get abortions. People are going to drink poisons for abortions. And I'd rather have people have legal access to these things that have already been happening, so women can continue to get the health care that they need. Because I tell you right now, if boys could get pregnant, they would be advocating for abortions too, because it's not that easy to not. You're right. Some men can. You're right. Thank you for correcting me. That people who can get pregnant, people who get pregnant, like it's people. If cis men were able to get pregnant, then I don't think we'd be even having this conversation. But a lot of times it's like, I wouldn't get an abortion. I wouldn't get an abortion. It's real easy to say. The fact of the matter is, women don't always want to have a baby. And women don't always want to have an abortion. So let's have them have the choice and body autonomy to do so, and not have these stupid legislators trying to legislate things behind closed doors and hurting women and hurting people who can get pregnant. It's bullshit.
You said this is behind closed doors. I mean, the state representatives of Texas voted on this. It was not behind closed doors.
They opened it.
Sure.
They actually voted in open session.
Sure, but
they
did it with a process, and we should vote them all out. But the process was underhanded, like you said.
So what I advocate for you is for in your state of California, y'all should advocate and vote for this, agenda that you want. I think that'd be a great idea.
Actually, states like California are raising money to try to make sure women have access to abortions outside of their state of Texas.
Who here voted for Biden? Yeah? Anyone here? Yeah. All right. Some of us have contributed to lowering abortion rates far more than these morally grandstanding conservatives have, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's about actually providing healthcare to people. It's always about healthcare. And when women's healthcare is under attack, everybody's completely okay. Yes, abortion is healthcare.
Abortion is a procedure that kills
abortion is
human.
healthcare.
No,
abortion
it isn't.
is healthcare. Oh my gosh, you will never go through pregnancy. I have watched my sisters go through multiple pregnancies. It is an extremely
I really don't need that.
Wait, let's please.
I actually have a child.
Stop.
I actually have a child. How about
her?
Okay, I said
people here have kids.
Okay, so
I have
machine's
kids.
muted. Aircraft is muted. I said stop. Neither of you listened to me. So everybody's gonna stop.
Stop.
Pixel is gonna respond to that because Pixel was saying something. Okay.
Men do not go through pregnancy. And this law in Texas is legitimately men policing women's bodies and people who can have children, people who can give birth.
Birthing people.
Yes.
So basically, you're saying men shouldn't be able to talk about this, right?
Okay. So
no.
I don't. Okay. Everybody, shut the fuck up. The next person to talk is just gonna be muted for 15 minutes if it's not Pixel. That's my new rule. That's how we're gonna deal with this topic. Pixel, please finish.
If you would like to have an opinion on this when it affects you directly, I have no problem with that, even slightly. I don't even mind if you're pro-life and you are against abortions. You will never have to have one. Therefore, your opinion you can have, but the government should not be legislating women's bodies because it is legitimately about control. And I actually think, I am not American, but I think there are actually far more nefarious undertones to this bill than you can even think. For example, the white population in America has been going down, like the white birth population, I'm not sure how to say it properly, has been going down for a very long time. And there is a lot of evidence to suggest that the reason that this law is implemented is to increase the amount of like white kids born in America because they're so you disagree with this? This is just it's so weird watching him talk over me to his chat. It's just so strange, but like
now she's bitching about people talking to their chat. Oh my god, I'm gonna talk to my chat now when she's talking over people in their chat. It's fine.
Honestly,
if that's gonna distract her, that's fine.
I don't care if you think you're pro-life. You are absolutely not. You don't give a fuck about women, and it's disgusting. And here's a little.
Oh shit, she's getting angry. Molding.
Interesting that you
she's
brought up
molding.
men's rights activists here.
Molding.
I tell you what,
molding.
Reason to withhold sex.
I love it. I love the mold.
And isn't that one of your big things? Women using their fucking sex as power, withholding it from men? Well, look at the reason you gave them now. women in Texas have legitimately no fucking reason to have sex because they can lose their entire independence and everything to a man who goes to the government to snitch on them.
Okay. Now I'm going to give it. I'm going to on the list next was Zan.
Oh, come on! You're not going to let me respond.
Wait, let me finish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Turk, Zan, Sparky in that order.
So I completely agree with the last few sentences you were saying. I completely agree that the women in Texas should stand up and have self control and self respect to force men to not have sex and to be much more controlling in that regard. And then as a joke, I'm married, so I already have sex with Hilt, so it sucks. And I'm a nicer human being because of that.
Zan?
Yeah, so it's kept going back to whether or not a fetus inside of a mother, or I'm going to say mother. I know that trans men and non-binary people can also get pregnant. I'm just going to use mother for the sake of brevity. I know obviously we've been going back to this topic of whether or not the fetus is an actual living being, and that seems to have been guiding a lot of the argument here on the conservative side. And I want to say that while I'm not a philosophy turbo virgin, I do want to point out that when it comes to making laws around the philosophy and the idea that a fetus is a life, we're never going to come to an agreement. It's such a contested, philosophical, subjective argument that I feel like like anyone on the left should just go ahead and concede. Sure, the second conception happens, it's a living being. And I would move on to say, in that case, let's take an analogous example. I can use the philosophy tube example. Let's say you get into a car accident. You get in your car and you're driving to work, and you get into a car accident and you end up T-boning somebody. And now you wake up in the hospital and you are now hooked up to that other person with an IV. And the doctor tells you that to keep that person alive, you have to be supplying them with a constant flow of blood from your kidneys. I know, not a very new analogy, but still. Would you say it is morally or constitutionally, legally good or permissible to allow that to happen, where in order to keep this other person alive, you need to be hooked up to this person for them to continue to live? Is that morally good for them to force you to give up your bodily autonomy to keep another human being alive? I'll completely concede that a fetus, the second that it's the egg is fertilized, is a human being. Does that mean that the mother or the person who's bearing the child should be forced to give up their bodily autonomy and continue to carry that pregnancy to term? Does the government have the right to take away that bodily autonomy from you? I would assume the libertarians here on the panel would say no, and I would hope the conservatives on here would agree no as well, but we'll see.
Sparky?
Well, when it comes down to it, you're talking about a scientific biological fact versus some odd deal. I hear
that's what philosophy is. That's what analogies in philosophy are.
I'm not gonna engage on that because there's a biological actual fact that the females in the human race actually are the ones that have to incubate the child. It's just the way it is. It's the way it was designed. And
wait,
it is what it
so
is.
can I ask Sparky a quick question? What you said earlier about how like this could be like a men's rights thing.
It
do
could
you really
be, yes.
So you
I'm
think
not
that
an
that would
MRA guy, but
No, I know, but do you really think that that would be like a positive thing for men's rights, that like they're able to essentially like hold their partner hostage, essentially?
Well,
of like
when you think about it, when you look at it, there are people who have actually their partners or whatever has gotten abortions behind their back. And so, yes, there are
maybe
people
there's a better
who
way to
want
fix
to
that
have
then.
children.
Oh, women
There
are
probably
so
is.
evil. It goes
Oh my
back
God,
to
I'm
women
not
are so
saying
evil.
that.
Women
My
are
goodness.
evil.
Oh,
This
Why are
is
you
so
saying that?
ridiculous. Like, what is this example? Of women
I-
go behind men's backs to get abortions. No woman
My
is out
God.
there. 13 person is out there doing that. No woman
Well, it does.
actually
It's
wants to
hold
go
on.
get an
It's
abortion.
No,
it does
Lady.
happen.
What?
It does
No,
happen
it's
Lady, it
not
does
sometimes.
happen.
fair to hold that up as the example.
It's just
before,
such a straw man
wait,
argument.
please,
Yeah.
please.
Well, I'm not
It's
able to
it's
elaborate on anything
no
here.
more of a
I'm just yelling, but
Okay. We're gonna do one at a time. Do you want to know what was gained out of that interaction? Literally nobody heard anything. So we're going to do one at a time. And so I'm gonna go down to the list. A demon machine, were you raising your hand earlier? I can't. No, okay. So we're gonna go back to the list. Next is going to be Biggs. And I'm going to write down the people who are talking to that interaction because I assume they want to say things but haven't raised their hand. So next is going to be Biggs.
All right. So I think we can all agree that the bill is bad, but when it comes down to like women's autonomy and things like that, like I think we should. And again, I don't know, I don't understand why conservatives have such a hard time with this, because like I do find myself being conservative, but in things like this, I find my libertarian pulling more towards my heartstrings with this, because like I don't want people to be influenced by the government to do anything for the most part, right? Government should be mostly focused on protecting your rights, and like I said before, I don't necessarily think a 6-week-old fetus is necessarily a being that should have the rights and protections of what we have over the woman, right? But what I can say from the conservative side is that I think that I'm hoping in the future, with things like Hunter had mentioned, with like having better education, better access to contraceptives, and I'm hoping that actual like technology with like artificial wombs can come into play eventually, so that we won't actually have to be killing these children in with these procedures. We can actually just transfer them from the woman who doesn't want to have them and have the abortion. Instead of having the abortion, we just make it into a transfer to like an artificial womb. But I think along with that, for the most part, and again, I know there's exceptions to this, but for the most part, most of these abortions could be prevented by just being more educated, by having safe sex and using contraceptives, and just being more responsible when you are engaging in sexual activities. And again, I know there's times when like things happen that are accidents, or contraceptive doesn't work, but I think if we can just have that responsibility, and again, another conservative value is personal responsibility. If we can have people, both men and women, I think men need to take a much bigger role in this as well, with being more the ones that need to be using a condom, making sure that the woman is on contraceptive, things like that. Like I think we can all take steps forward to that, and I think both the left and the right would both agree with this, and that's where I kind of like think we kind of all want the same thing. But I think if we take these steps, that we can actually reduce the number of people even needing to have an abortion, and eventually we can just completely phase it out with technology. And that's my goal and hope for the future. But laws like this are just bad. They're just causing more harm than good, because like Hunter said earlier, they don't, like, having these bans don't actually lower the amount of abortions. They just make it harder for women to get abortions, and they make them do more riskier things that may cause even more harm. I think Hunter said there was like something like 30 or so thousand
23,000
yeah,
every year.
exactly.
I think that's global too. So
okay, well, either way, but still, I think that we can do this in a way that's beneficial to all sides. We can all agree on just minimizing the harm overall, and I hope that we can just kind of get to that point eventually.
Okay, now I'm going to throw it over to Turk. Turk is next.
Hey, what's up?
Zan, Josie, Pixel, and then Aircraft again.
Yeah, I know. Alesso, I believe they've been in.
People on this panel,
they did it with animals, right? But I don't know if have they done it with actual any.
I personally don't
any
think,
humans yet.
It did a good job of doing what it needed to do. Just hear me out. Don't just tune me out. I think what should be added to this current bill is that the men that facilitate this incident should also be legally required and liable under the penalties of this lawsuit that private citizens are going to have to go through. They should also have to pay the $10,000 bounty fee in order to
real in our
keep
lives.
PPs in check in order to.
Well, yeah, but making it more like realistic probability, because like I think if it was just literally a transfer,
abstinence training.
No, it's
and then again, who would be responsible
responsible
for paying for it and things like that? Like obviously, it would have to be more of a marketable product for like everyday use than just
you should be held liable for that bad
like
We're
a
really
super
gonna,
rare,
gonna police
expensive thing.
men's dicks instead of like just giving women health care.
Yeah, let's give them all vasectomies.
I'm totally down with that.
Wait, do I get?
Actually, vasectomies are.
If they're going to start paying for that.
Okay, we're gonna throw it over to Zan.
Don't you have insurance, bro?
Frankly, I am completely on board with what Pixel and Josie have been saying. I think a lot of the motivation for the anti-abortion rhetoric in this country is out of a motivation to control women and women's bodies and women's rights. And I want to propose a new rule. Cis men aren't allowed to talk about the abortion issue if they're against it until they pass at least 3 kidney stones, because I think that's the most comparable you can get for cis men going through pregnancy. I think that's about
Xander
as close
Hall,
as you can get,
what does cis men gain from being anti-abortion?
I mean, a lot of dudes just kind of feel like they have a power trip over women. I genuinely do feel that way.
I disagree with that, actually, Xander Hall.
I think too. I think that's a big part of it, unironically.
And they should be held liable for that.
I think it's only natural for a lot of men to feel particularly passionate about this topic as well. I can see that. I can see why people would feel uncomfortable with abortion when potentially that child is their sperm. Like if I meet these conservatives on the ground, that the cells are a fetus or whatever, right? I understand that. But
I mean, how much does it
surprises me
cost to
every
take a
time
shot
how
back
more
up the
men
beach?
aren't
Huh?
pro-choice,
No, I'm just kidding.
knowing that.
That was really
Like,
bad.
if
That was
you
cringy.
truly
I'm
care
sorry.
about somebody,
I'm
right,
sorry, stream. I didn't
and you
mean to
get
make such a
pregnant,
bad joke.
and that pregnancy could affect the life of that woman, right? It
Whenever you watch the
literally
movies, it's like,
could
oh, it costs $500, so
kill
it's
her.
$250 from the man and
And
$250 from
you,
the chick.
you're gonna care more about the baby.
All right,
It
have
just,
fun,
it's,
Alesto. Thanks for coming
it's
by.
like, how
I
do
appreciate
you
it.
weigh
You're awesome,
up
man.
morally not
Stay out of trouble.
caring about women in this situation, not caring about your partner, their health care? Like, and
You should
so
leave it
many
on in the
people,
background
for
with
lots of
the with it
reasons,
muted, buddy,
especially in
so I get a
America, where
view.
the sexual education is extremely
Yeah, 500, 1200. That's like nothing. I mean, granted, I mean
lacking,
that's
shall we say.
kind of braggadocious, I guess. But like to
Really
me, that seems
struggle
like
with the
way less to
concept
pay
of
than the
sex
total
when they're
cost of a child.
teenagers.
Really,
And
you know what I
lots
mean?
of young kids get
you know,
pregnant through
you're at least paying that much
mistakes
to
and
have
all
the
sorts of
child.
things.
Way more
Now,
than that,
if
probably,
they are
just for the
forced to have that
prenatals alone.
child
You
at
know?
14, not
So.
only is it extremely dangerous for them, but it takes away their chance to have kids at a later age when it might be more suitable, and like they have a job and money and, you know, the maturity to be able to raise kids. There is a cycle here of teenage pregnancy over and over again, right? There is a cycle that needs to be broken through sexual education. I agree with this. Through sexual education, access to contraception, but also access to healthcare during pregnancy and abortion if it is so required. The options need to be there, and it should not be on the government to say no options are available to you. You have to have this child, no matter what. It's so entirely wrong. Sorry, I know I just ranted, but like,
I don't even know if you need to like make an appeal to emotion here necessarily. Like, I think that whether or not this is about men wanting to have power over women or something is honestly irrelevant. I personally don't really agree with that. I
Hey,
think that
what's up, one
a
Western
lot of the
millennial?
times when we
Thank
see
you for
this
the
abortion
follow.
stuff happen,
My chair just
especially
sank
with like
down.
general public, like the average Fox News Republican, I think that they genuinely do think that they are in the right. And I think that they believe that they are caring about an important issue, which is the unborn child. So I think that a better way to get through to those people really is to just show them how these abortion restrictions do not lead to the outcomes that they want to see. So like whether or not there's teen pregnancy or not, like I think that
Excuse me.
I think that talking about like the philosophical nature of abortion and when does life begin,
Yeah, everybody
it's not irrelevant, but it's irrelevant to this specific discussion.
I know. I've moved
because
across
at the
the
end of
country. I know
day,
you've moved
we've
across
seen
the
it happen
country,
in
but,
countries
like,
where it's legal and countries where it's not.
it's
Abortion is going to take
some
place
people
no
don't
matter
have that
what.
abilities,
We need
which
to
I
figure out
do
what we can
wanna
do to
have some
reduce
type
it.
of
And in this case, it's
remorse for it, but, like, you have to
contraceptives,
be
better
personally
sex ed,
responsible too.
vote
So
blue.
Well, contraceptives are actually free at all the health departments in Texas for individuals who are 15 and above. So contraceptives do exist. In fact, there is a bill.
I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm saying that they should have easier access, and just if they're
Jane's
free
due
somewhere doesn't mean they
process-
are all always.
Jane's due process is a law in Texas. And it says teens do not need permission from a parent or legal guardian to get birth control at clinics in Texas. So this actually does already exist. And now, when it comes to the sex ed actually needs to be taught at a pretty decently young age. I would say right around maybe 5th or 6th grade. Of course, with parental permission. I don't believe that you should teach children things without, certain things like that without parental permission. But these programs already exist. Now, for those of you who are going, oh my God, it's a horrible thing. Look, Texas may be a big state, but it is not by any means untravelable. And look, when it comes down to the whole politics of it all, hey, there's a lot of people who are going to be leaving Austin,
thank you.
flying to other countries,
Go
flying
blue.
to other states now. So hey,
Yeah, I
the
usually
purple-
switch
the
between
purple
my
Texas, I
Michigan and my
guess,
Michigan State hoodie.
It's going away. But the whole argument that Xander Hall throws, no
So I
suspension.
usually
Shut up, dude.
usually
When
wear.
it comes down to it, it takes two to actually make make a baby.
If I'm being lazy, I'll just
So
wear a white T-shirt.
both sides should
For
have
these
a
shows, I
actual
like to,
say
like,
in it.
have,
I think the argument that men should have no right to talk
look on
unless
me, not
whatever,
just
that
like,
is stupid.
I'm about ready to go to bed.
Look,
I agree. I'm going to meet you here in the middle that I agree that we don't, that I'm not a fan of any kind of argument like you're a man, you can't talk about this, that, or the other thing. I believe Xander Hall's making a joke, though, to be fair.
That was a joke, yes. I wanted to make
Yeah,
a
it
joke
wasn't a
about
very good
kidney
one.
stones.
It
It was,
Yeah, it was a
you know,
joke about
comedy
kidney
is
stones,
subjective,
really.
my friends.
He
Wait, let me,
screams
because
Wait.
However,
wait,
I just,
wait. I want 100 to finish this point, but then we have to throw it over to Josie, who's been waiting very patiently.
Gotcha.
can
I
I
just had to
respond to
say,
what
I
Sparky
still,
said after Hunter?
Hunter, okay, but you got like 15 seconds. Then
Sure,
Josie.
he can.
Thanks
I
to
just
everybody
still
that's
can't
hanging
get over
out,
the
by
fact
way.
that
I
you're
really
seeing this as
appreciate
some
it.
kind of a win for men, that they can essentially like threaten their pregnant partner.
Actually, I don't.
That
I
you
really
literally
appreciate
brought
everybody
that
that's
up
here.
last
Thank
week,
you
and
all
now
for
you're
hanging
trying
out
to
with
walk
me.
it back.
No, I said this could be seen as. I don't think it is. In fact, I even
Okay.
mentioned how the bill was
So why
signed.
you bring it up then? Just to say,
Because I am thinking beyond my own purview. I am
we
trying.
should do that for the vaccine stuff, but okay.
Oh, I have.
All right. We can move on.
Jesus.
You're just
Okay.
a walking ball of contradictions, and I think it's kind of funny to point it out. But that my
Oh
15
my
seconds
God.
is
Build
up.
another straw man, please.
It's not a straw man. I think I've proven it pretty fairly throughout this discussion thus far.
Can I? Okay.
Okay.
So, Aircraft Sparky brought up a minute ago that contraceptives exist and should be made more readily available. And he mentioned that they were, that you can get contraceptives for free. I'd like to bring up the fact that obviously contraceptives don't always work. They work as a, decent safeguard, but they're not always going to work. And of course, even practically, if you've got like 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds who may be sexually active, you have to think about the logistics of how are they going to get their hands on contraceptives? How are they going to get transportation where they could get some? Maybe they have to walk. Maybe they have to get a ride. That's not always going to work out very well. Not to mention, if we go back to the specific law, it cuts off at around 6 weeks once cardiac activity in the fetus is detected. And pregnancy is something that takes a while. Symptoms don't come about immediately. I brought this up earlier. Obviously, if you get conceive very like right after a woman, like your period, you may not know that you've missed a period up until 4 weeks later, and that might not even give you a clue. Some women miss periods regularly based on weight or hormone balance. It's random. And not to mention the fact that after 6 weeks, it's also very likely you wouldn't even know that you're pregnant. And at that point, it's too late to even know if you want to get an abortion. And goes as well in the case of rape and incest. I think this law is a complete mess. And also,
I actually hear you there. And look, when it comes to things like rape and incest, I understand that rape can be quite traumatic and all this other stuff, and someone may not want to actually get medical attention directly after the rape. That does happen. I'm not even talking about that. When I'm talking about this, I'm just looking through your average consensual engagements. There are personal responsibilities on both sides, by the way. But yes, I need to see. Yes, Miss Josie.
Okay, thank you. So first off, I've been hearing a lot of conversation about how we should just do education and we should just make sure contraceptions are available. And Xander brought up the point where that doesn't always happen. What is the problem with having safe, legal access to abortions? I don't understand why the dystopian world of not having that safe healthcare for people who can have babies. I don't understand why they can't have that. And the other point that I want to make is the 6 week point, and I want to flourish that out a little bit more. So in Texas, they've been doing a very good job systematically shutting down abortion clinics because they weren't to standards, because they wanted it to be a hospital because it's healthcare. And they wanted it to be that way. And then they closed a lot of abortion clinics. There were waiting lists. There were things that people had to wait. So you could find out that you're pregnant on the week 15 and not get an appointment until week 8. What are you going to do then? Right? You're going to have to get on a plane. You're going to have to leave the state. And if you're
you
a
can't tell
child,
anyone. You can't tell
yeah,
anyone, or else they could report you too for $10,000.
exactly, right? So now you have this reporting system where you have a system where you can now hold this over your partner's head. The partner is going to create even more distrust between these relationships that already exist. And I'm going to tell you right now, any person that's having a baby can't have a conversation with their partner because they're afraid of what their partner is going to do is the reason why people need to have access to abortions. The fact that there is so much abuse that is done in those situations that it was brought up as an example is real truth to the testament of the control that men want to have over their partners that can have children.
To be
And that
fair,
is,
he brought it up, but he didn't actually agree with that position. He just wanted to bring it up so that we could all think
you
about
don't
how
have
maybe
to
that's
talk,
something.
you don't have to explain the arguments for me.
I was making fun of him. I was
Okay,
making fun of him.
I understand. Okay, let me finish my conversation. Sorry. So really, when it comes down to it, what we're trying to do is have safe access to abortion, and we want to remove the barriers to make that happen. Because if a person can't get an abortion in Texas, guess what you're doing? They now have to find an appointment outside of their state. They have to find an insurance provider outside of their state. Now you're prolonging the process where the abortion makes sense to have right after the 6-week period and forcing them to wait even months more time than just getting the abortion right away. And that's really the biggest issue. And the fact is, Texas's law is bullshit. And people have been saying, who here agrees with the law? Anyone agree with the law?
Like as written, or like the
I agree
Probably
with
as
critics,
written.
but not how it was done. I don't like how it was done, but I do like that. Yes, it bans abortion after 6 weeks.
Okay, so that's the problem. Like, look at all these people on this panel, and a lot of us are very right leaning. Even Hunter is like says that he's pro life about this particular issue, and nobody agrees with this. So the fact is, Aircraft Sparky, what I have a challenge for you and all the conservatives that also agree to call your other representatives and say that this is a shit law and this is hurting our movement as a conservative movement because you are making women just leave the party in droves. But Aircraft Sparky, you got to really think about why so many people are so violently against this law. And even the colleagues on this panel are against this law. It's inhumane. It's unconstitutional. The way that they went around it skates a lot of the fears that you have about big government, and it's cruel to women, and it doesn't actually help and solve the problem. It will cause more healthcare problems and more healthcare costs when a woman has to go into a back alley and does it. Then she has to go to the hospital and spend your medical dollars to make sure that that happens. So why don't we just make it accessible like it always has been, instead of trying to control women at this level that is destroying people's lives on a wholesale level? And Hunter, I didn't mean to jump on you so hard. I thought you were trying to explain something for me. Thanks.
Okay.
Safe, legal, and rare used to be the standard. Now it is access completely open,
Yeah,
and
that's
up to and
so. I have
sometimes following birth.
I have
Okay,
a question.
That's
Standard
not
So,
true.
Wait.
Virginia.
We have a list we're going. Aircraft. I guess you just skipped the line, so I'll cross out your name from the list. If you want to finish your points now.
No, I was just trying to address something that was directed at me. That's all it was.
Okay. Then I'm gonna throw it over to Pixel then, and then we're gonna go to Biggs, then Turk.
Oh.
I just think what this law comes down to is that men have been trying to police women's bodies and vilifying women for so many things to do with pregnancy. For so long. Women used to be blamed for miscarriages that they had through no fault of their own. They literally got their heads chopped off in some cases because men thought that women were the reason.
They're
and
the
it was
devil.
A woman's fault
They're
that she had a
witches.
miscarriage.
Witches.
Like,
burn the witches at the stake.
It is our power systems and our power structures entrench the power of men, and these men are using those powers to overreach their ability to control women's bodies. And it's legitimately infuriating that you can't see that. If you are like freedom, liberty, and you fucking can't see that, then you have never even thought about your political groundings even slightly, because you don't care. You literally don't care. You want some sort of moral high
Yeah,
ground
they
because
definitely
you think
are.
that
They are. You're
life
right.
begins at conception.
If you look at
Fuck
any of the
off.
other
You have
like
no moral
Middle
high
East
ground
or
here.
Far East countries, yeah, it's
Okay.
completely.
Next is going to be Biggs, Turk, then Demon.
Yeah, so I kind of want to throw it back to something that Josie said about the having access to abortion. I agree with you. about having access to abortion and things like that, like in most circumstances. But my argument, and I think is the more conservative argument, is like we should be able to have these women have the chance to prevent these to start with. Like there shouldn't be a need for abortions for the most part in this day and age. And I know that there's, like you said, there's times when, and I said this as well, and Xander said it, and there's times when like contraceptive doesn't work. But like if the man is using a condom and the woman's on birth control, like chances are like 99.999% like you're not going to get pregnant, right? So don't you think that that like you should be more advocating for that than just saying like let's have abortions? Like, because I think that's the problem. I think a lot of the conservatives see the far left that are like more like actually like pro abortion, like wanting to have abortions. But like I don't think that's necessarily like the majority of women or anything, but like to me, like that is such a traumatic experience for a woman. Shouldn't we be pushing women to be more responsible and not get pregnant to start with? Like, don't you think that would be a better option?
It's not only on the woman. Don't say it like that.
I literally said it to start, that the men and the women, and I've said it multiple times, right?
But you just said at the end that women should have more responsibility. You know, accidents happen, right?
Exactly. So they should be responsible for themselves. Okay, I will backtrack on that and say they should be responsible as well as the man be responsible. So as a woman, you should say, "Hey, are you wearing a condom?" And as a man, you should say, "Hey, are you on birth control?" But don't you think we should be pushing more towards that, so like an abortion doesn't have to happen in the first place? More so than like pushing for actually having abortions. Like that's my whole thing.
No one here is pushing for abortions in lieu of contraception.
When you said that before, you were coming off again. Maybe I'm mistaken.
That wasn't that way.
But what I'm saying is, you made it sound like you were like obviously I agree with you. We should have access to abortion, but don't you think it's more beneficial to not have the abortion to start with than to advocate for being pro-abortion?
I think everybody on this panel advocates for that.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because I mistook what you were saying then.
Should be contraception. And I was even talking about statistics and numbers that show that women who get abortions usually had a failed contraception.
Okay, but don't you think that that we should advocate for more personal responsibility though overall?
We should advocate for more education.
Education and personal responsibility, right? Because that you have to have education and personal. You have to actually enact it.
But no. The say personal responsibility shows that, oh, you weren't responsible, so here's your punishment. No,
nobody's saying anything about
punishment. We need to be responsible for proper safe sex practices and family planning. But that doesn't mean like if something happens that the person should be penalized. It's like, oh, you were an unresponsible woman. I'm going to morally say that you were wrong because you got an abortion. That's the wrong take.
That's not what I'm saying.
It's unfortunate that that person had to get an abortion. That's where we're at. It's not a point of indignation for that person just because they had an abortion. Does it make them morally wrong or irresponsible?
Do you think if we were, we would have less of an issue with this if it wasn't, or if we were more pushing for the education and the like both men and women being more responsible?
I think we would have a better place where we would have sex education taught in a way that was responsible, that teen pregnancy rates would drop like they do in Scandinavia, but there's still people pushing for abstinence only education. There's still people here in America pushing. There's still there, but the thing is, there are still schools who are opting out of sex education classes. Like there is abilities for parents to say, no, I don't want my kids to learn sex education. Like that stuff shouldn't be allowed. Right? Like sex education and family planning is very, very important. But even that in conservative spaces is still looked down upon and frowned upon. Like, they like to get a condom in a high school in Texas is not easy. It's not sitting in the bowl in the middle of the foyer. You have to go to the nurse's office. You have to ask for it. You have to go through the whole thing. I was born and raised in Texas. I know what it was like to get condoms and the stares I used to get I would go into those.
But do you have like? I mean, obviously there's like the free ones at like those health clinics and stuff like that. But like, there's a lot more access nowadays, I think, than.
But when you're a teenager,
I mean, you can go. I mean, if you can go to if you can find a place to have sex, you can probably find a place to find a condom or something like that. Obviously, like I know birth control might be different. Like I don't know the laws in Texas specifically about like if women can get birth control without parental consent. But I think Sparky said that you can.
Do you understand? You understand that the fact that we're having this nuanced conversation about how good our sex education is proves that it's not great. and that is
That's
leading
not-
to
I mean,
the increase in abortion.
I think it depends on where you're from, but I personally had pretty good sex education from both my school and my parents. But like that's another thing too is like parents need to be more responsible too because like I don't think that necessarily kids should be. And again, I do agree with you like the conservative aspect of like especially like evangelical Christians and stuff like that. They say like no contraceptives, and I think that's bullshit. I think that's dumb, right? But I think that in those cases, that's up to the parents. But then those kids also have to deal with the consequences, and hopefully they will be responsible. And again, we can't always make sure that they are, but I think we should be pushing for more things like that to prevent the abortion from even having to take place because abortion is such a traumatic experience. And I think that
Yeah,
if we
not
can
for
limit
everybody.
So
that,
the personal responsibility thing, though, the problem with that is it really just puts all the onus, especially I think that earlier, I could be wrong, but I thought that earlier you said we need to tell women to be more responsible.
I
That
meant
kind of
all
just
involved because I did
all
say
right,
about
that,
men
that
having
puts
condoms
the
as well.
onus purely on them. And here's the thing, the disconnect here is personal responsibility. That's important, yes, but that's something that's taught domestically. That's something that's taught by the family in a family unit. These are morals that are upheld and reinstated in a family setting. This is not through legislation. So when we're talking about abortion, what are we going to do about actual legislation? Well,
Yeah, I agree.
restrictions don't work. So instead, we should be focused on providing contraception and improving our
Yep.
sex education.
And I completely agree with that, but I'm just trying to say if we can get like okay, so we're talking about like people that are trying to have an abortions now, but if we can nip it at the actual like root of the issue of like actually getting pregnant, that can prevent
what would
as
be
many
nipping it
people
in the bud?
getting pregnant.
Yes, I love this. Let's
Not having
police men
sex?
coming. Never again.
I think it should be everybody. I think both parties should be
coming.
equally
Don't come
responsible
anymore.
personally.
No more
Okay.
sperm. We're abolishing sperm. You can't. That's it. You just
Vasectomies
can't.
for
You have to
everyone!
keep
I
your
agree.
sperm.
I have great
Take some
medicine for
personal
that.
responsibility for your fucking sperms, right?
Okay.
You
Yeah.
are edging only.
Wait,
you are not
wait,
allowed to
let's-
come anymore.
okay.
There you go. Done.
We gotta move on because there's people on the list. I want to go to Turk. Then we have Demon Machine. Then Xander Hall.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to only have the 1 point. So, Josie, you had a statement earlier saying that some percentage of these people that are going to no longer have abortions were due to failed contraceptives. Can you clarify that statement real quick? You're muted.
Yeah, I can find it. I'm gonna have to look through the data. You know, I actually like went to college in women's studies and actually studied this stuff at length and nauseum and read a lot of multitude of studies to come up with my position. But sure, I'll try to find the one that proves your point because perfection is what's
No, I want the clarification because I read an article that said that the media outlet actually interviewed one of these clinics, right? And they said they were going to lose between 80 and 90% of their business because of this law. And that seems like a pretty large disconnect for failed
that's because
contraceptives.
most abortions happen at 8 and 10 weeks, not 6.
Right.
Also,
so
if I'm not mistaken,
that's why business is going down.
I would be
but you
curious
said-
to see the thing is that it's my understanding that the majority of abortions take place under the, if you want to look at it, I think it's like 96%, and this is more broadly just like unplanned pregnancies, right? That's why when we talk about like rape and incest, there is a place to have that conversation, but generally the main reason that abortions are taking place is just unplanned pregnancies, the mother not feeling ready, the mother not being confident in her financial situation. These are a couple reasons and things that we can fix by adding a UBI, for example. Vote blue. That's right. I'm back to shilling for voting blue.
Can I make my point real quick and then I can concede? So what Josie said was factually incorrect according to what Avalon was saying, right? So Josie, I would like for you to clarify or apologize or something, because what you said was false.
Really, dude? I mean, lack of contraception could very well play a role in that and influence that statistic. I mean, it is true that it's my understanding that it's a more broad reason for why people have abortions, but really, you want a formal apology? Are you kidding me?
I want clarification. I want the real number. If you're going to make an argument that's based on
Look,
false
dude,
information, I want the accurate number.
man, like we're sitting here talking about this stuff. We have had countless people talk about bullshit with vaccine mandates and all of this stuff, and I pull up a statistic that I have to go and dig out, and now you want me to apologize because I haven't found it yet? F you,
Hey,
dude.
you don't have to apologize. I just want clarification so that I can be better informed.
How about
so
you
that...
take a fucking women's studies class and get some clarification?
Okay, no, please
obviously you
don't.
know
No. I'm cutting in here. Please
You're
don't
not the
tell.
referee here. Like
I
the
am the
fact of
referee
matter
because
is,
I'm begging you not to
I'm
say
the
go to
referee.
women's studies
disrespectful.
to conservative. That's
No,
not going to convince
no,
anyone.
How'd that work
No,
out for
it
the
doesn't
Afghans, by the
matter.
way?
But the
How
thing
many
about
millions?
it is it doesn't matter because this is the first time on this panel that we're trying to call out some stats and evidence in this way. And now I'm been said to apologize and then find this data on a fucking whim of a snap of your fucking finger. So your clarification so you can understand an argument. When Hunter Avalon here was sitting here talking about a study, you wanted him to send it to you so you could read it later. Okay. So how about I do you the same courtesy? Instead of me
you
trying
did
to
cite
find
it, right?
all
Like
of this stuff.
I love to read
you could at least
information.
look for
I
it.
love to learn things.
I am looking for it.
And I would love to learn this so that I can be better informed. I don't want to hear false information when I'm having a conversation with people. This is not out of bad faith, guys. This is how we have
It's completely bad.
conversations. No, I want to know better facts. I don't want to be fed one thing.
How is
and
it?
not
How
get
I
is
feel
it
like you
bad?
asking for the apology and then smugly backing up and be like, I just want to know more facts. Come on. You
Yeah,
weren't
that's
just looking for
super bad
facts. You were
faith.
also looking for a gotcha. At least just own it.
I just want better information. That's me as a human being.
Okay. Next, we're gonna throw it over to Demon Machine, then Xander Hall. I'll write Sparky's name down.
God, I hate when I get to put on the spot like this. Because I have so many good points when everybody else is talking, and then I forget them by the time we get here. Damn it. So my question then is, what is too late to have an abortion? Maybe Pixel. Do you have how late is too late for an abortion?
Well,
When would you stop it?
I don't think that is an easy question to answer. I don't think there is too late.
Why?
There isn't too late, because if the mother's life is at risk, I would never imagine being in this situation. There are no women who get to a third term of their pregnancy and think they're going to have an abortion. If that is something that happens to a woman, she is going to be traumatized. And I think when people remove the emotion from this debate, it's really problematic, because this is an emotional thing. Having children is an emotional thing. And by the time you get to the third trimester of a pregnancy, absolutely no one is going to want to go through what it is to have a stillbirth and an abortion at that point. Even if that baby is only going to live for seconds after it's delivered, even if anything. Like, I feel like women are just constantly demonized, right? And if your point is like, what is too late? There is no too late, because these decisions are so incredibly heavy for women to make and their partners. And I don't want to discount. I'm sorry, I don't mean to use gendered language either. Non-binary people and trans men can also give birth. But
yeah, I understand.
I just think that it's
Everybody's got to
really
apologize
important
for
to
everything now
understand
before they
that
say anything.
Women don't go out being like, yay, off to have an abortion. I'm so excited. No, that is not what happens when a woman goes through abortion at all.
You just did a women. You did a women.
There's
Oh no, you
people
did a
on
women.
TikTok that do that.
Yeah,
that's
the
Oh,
thing.
I saw that. I saw
right?
that one TikTok as well, and like, I do not agree with that. Right?
Fantastic.
I would never address conservatives in that way. That's why I'm willing to like concede. If you want to believe that life begins at conception, go for it. I am willing to concede that one to you if that's what you believe. I have no problem with that, but I do have a very big problem with my right to bodily autonomy and my health and my choices surrounding that. And I think that if you guys can't see that your politics based around freedom and liberty don't count when it comes to women's freedom and liberty, then you haven't done a lot of fucking thinking about your politics.
All right, then I have a follow-up question. What about this deal? You can have abortions. You don't have to force people to get vaccinations.
You're advocated for that.
I am already pro-choice of vaccination. I'm not pro-mandated vaccination, because I am fucking logical in my politics. They make sense across the board. There you go.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
We're going to move it over to Xander Hall, then Sparky. Then we're going to wrap up the topic and move into the final one of the night.
All right, really quickly, I'm going to answer the question of when is it too late for an abortion. And I would say the point where it's too late is the point where when you go in to get an abortion, the doctor says, nah, we're just going to do an induced labor. That's when I think it's too late. Now, I want to bring out a nice steamy take right now when it comes to sex ed, because we were mentioning that earlier. I think that sex ed should be mandatory and at a much younger age, not necessarily to teach like proper sexual etiquette or whatever necessarily, but to inform children on how to seek help if they're being sexually abused. There is a massive correlation with lack of sexual education for young kids and sexual abuse. Kids need to know what's happening to them if they're being sexually abused in order to report it. I think sex ed should be taught at a much younger age and it should be mandatory, and parents shouldn't be able to like have their kids taken out of that. I think it's very, very important. It should be done at a much younger age. I lived in Florida, the simmering hell state, as I like to call it. And all I got was a health class. They taught us that we need to wear deodorant because we're going to start sweating a lot more as we get into our teens. Like we need way better sex education at a much younger age.
Some guys could use that advice.
Okay. And we're going to wrap it up with Sparky before doing outros for this topic. Man, those are some banger points.
Yeah.
I wish I could hear them.
Yeah. Look, when it comes down to it, look, it's about personal responsibility on both sides. Look, when it comes down to it, guys get girls pregnant, girls get pregnant from having sex. So personal responsibility needs to exist on both sides. Unfortunately, abortion is used as a form of birth control. It's because a lot of people in the past don't think of things like birth control. It takes discipline to do that. I get that. It gets a little difficult at times. I understand why women are upset about this. I get it. There are many men that are upset about it as well. Me, I don't like the way this one is set up. I thought it should be done more on a states' rights issue. But after all, I mean, don't like it, don't live there, I guess. That's really where we're going to have to go with on this one.
Okay. Now we're going to go into outros for this topic before the last topic of the night. I would just like to say, everybody in chat, hey, I would really appreciate if you checked out my YouTube channel. I am getting closer and closer and closer than ever to 50,000 subscribers. I'm at 42,200 at the moment. Trying to zoom in on that. I would really appreciate everybody in chat could just give it a quick sub. Costs you nothing. Helps me out a whole lot. And if you would like to sub and donate to the channel to support me more, I would appreciate that as well. I would also like to thank everybody in chat for being somewhat cordial. As always, chat never gets bloodthirsty at all. As we move into the final topic, now we're going to do outro starting in the bottom right-hand corner with Xander Hall.
Yeah, I just want to give my outro and just say the personal responsibility take that I've heard so much is just really stupid. It's not a policy. It's not a political action. It's just a thing conservatives say because it sounds nice and makes them feel good. Give me a perfect meritocracy and I'll give you a society where personal responsibility means jack shit, okay? This law is dog shit. It's stupid. It should never have been passed. And I feel like it made my point plenty well before this.
Okay, I'm going to throw it over now to the Turk.
For the sake of conversation, I'm going to read the studies that were sent to me. So thank you.
Okay, now I'm going to throw it over to Pixel Smixel.
I think I've made my position here pretty clear. I'd also like to point out that there has not been one point made against the civil liberties argument that I made. Not one opposing argument, because there isn't one. You're contradicting in your politics. Other than I think it's Bigsy in the middle there. I think I'm sorry if I got your name wrong. But I think you have a pretty reasonable approach to this situation. But I legitimately think that it's very obvious that pro-lifers use some sort of moral high ground or basis of conservative or religious thinking to frame their beliefs. And I don't know why personal responsibility has come up so much. It's like you spent way too long listening to Jordan Peterson. And it just has nothing to do with the facts of the situation, because the fact is access to abortion reduces abortions. And at the end of the day, that is the one thing that should matter, even if you don't want to give a fuck about women, which you should. But
Access to abortions reduce abortions. I mean,
That's all.
I don't think it matters either way.
Now we're going to throw it over to Josie Rose.
Hi, everybody. If I'm dancing, it's because I got a hype train going because those last points were too based. So anyways, I'm just going to keep on harping on what I was saying. I'm going to echo everything that Pixel said. She's 100% right on all of that, especially with the civil liberties. And really, all we need to do is give people safe and legal access to abortion. Because it's going to happen and it's going to hurt
If you
people.
kill your enemies,
And if we
they
try
win.
to restrict it in
Yay!
any way, it's only
Exactly.
going to hurt people who are socially, economically disadvantaged because of the fact that they don't have the ability to just jump across state lines and get these things to happen. And in the studies that I passed, there was the fact that it was, let me give the actual number here. Oh no, it went away. But most of people, like in the 90 percentile, get abortions approximately at 13 weeks. So the fact of the matter is that's where we're at. And people get these abortions, and the reason they chose 6
what's
week
up, Jay
arbitrarily
Thanks
is
for
because
hopping
they
in,
know
buddy.
the fact that most people get
Appreciate it, man. Thank
abortions
you.
shortly after that in their first trimester. So or during
Just
right
don't
at the cusp of
believe
the second. So
lying
that's where I'm at. I'm gonna stand for this. I'm always gonna stand for this. I think Texas is irrepressible. I think that the Supreme Court not hearing this is a complete problem. And I hope that we actually pass a bill
myself,
that
I'm
actually
kind of like a
does
centrist
support and make sure
Demon
we
Machine
codify
and
into
the
law
Turk are
the Roe v.
righties,
Wade decision.
and Hunter, Josie,
Okay,
Pixel,
now I'm gonna throw it over
and
to Hunter
Xander Hall
Avalon.
are the
Sure. So, yeah, my point still is
Hunter is
just
basically
we need to
pro-life.
focus on policy that extends contraceptive, sex education. We all know the spiel. The entire Texas bill, yeah, it doesn't seem to be a good thing. It seems to really set a dangerous precedent overall. It's my understanding, and I could be wrong, but it's my understanding that the Supreme Court is still
Josie's got,
planning on
strobe
looking
lights
at this.
going on in the background or
I
something.
think
The
it
camera's
was
flashing.
the law could be struck down by courts long before the red state. Hold on, I wanted to address something Josie said too, because I think that the Supreme Court left open the possibility it could yet strike down the Texas ban, with a conservative majority stressing it wasn't ruling on the merits of the law when it turned away an emergency petition from abortion clinics to freeze the statute. So just to be clear, the Supreme Court, the Texas court, them implementing that law does set a dangerous precedent, but the Supreme Court, they're not actually saying whether or not they stand by this law at the end of the day. So just to straighten that out, just to clear that up, I thought I would want to clear that up.
They didn't hear it though. That's what I said. I didn't say they're not making a decision on it. They're not ruling on it. They're letting the lower courts make this decision. That's the thing.
Okay, sure. Although there's still, it sounds like a very
so you're
large
trying to clarify, and I love the pattern of this panel.
Okay, can we say that this right now is
I
closing
love when the
statements,
left
and we're not
fights.
allowed to talk at all under any circumstances during another person's closing statements. This will be the
I'm
one
done
warning
anyway.
I give for the night.
It's all right, yeah, and just the Texas law is bad. Abortion bans don't work. The end.
She
Demon
shut
Machine.
Hunter up bad. Muted, buddy.
Oh, is it my turn?
Yes.
All right. Basically, I would like the government out of abortions at all. Like, they should be allowed to have it, but if you want it to get done, it doesn't go with taxpayer dollars. If you want to go and pay for an abortion yourself, by God, do whatever you want. It's your conscience. That's pretty much it where it comes to that. This law, it sounds pretty trash. I'll give it a good old look over and read the thing, but it also seems like it's kind of a reactionary to what Virginia did, where they were almost post-birth abortion. Like, we'll make it comfortable, and then we'll decide what to do with it, and that is also kind of disturbing.
Yeah, he is a conservative,
I don't like
but
disturbing
he's more of a
things on either side.
conservative like me,
so
I think.
That's
I would
factually
prefer that
false,
we
by the way.
still- What?
Hunter.
Sorry.
Hunter, you need to come Sunday. Then you can yell at me all day. So, I guess that was my entire point.
I'm actually pro-choice as well.
I would like to get the government out of it. They can't rule up or down.
Okay. I'm going to throw it over to Biggs, and I'll keep Hunter muted to keep him in line during these outros.
Yeah, he seems to be the problem child of the panel tonight, trying to mansplain and trying to to interrupt people all the time. No, I'm just kidding. I love you, Hunter. You're good. But yeah, back to this. So I think that again, this bill is just complete trash. I think the fact that we're opening up a can of worms to this whole like deputizing the public to like snitch on their become bounty hunters for abortion, I think that's just like completely absurd. Overall, I think it goes against like everything we are as Americans, mainly. Again, as far as abortion goes itself, I think that nobody should ever have an abortion ever, but I don't think the government has the right to interfere with it because, again, I think what we have now enshrined in law is Roe v. Wade. I think that is basically as good as we're going to get. I think that this is just a wedge issue that both sides try to push to try to gain votes and try to drum up support for whatever whenever an upcoming election's happening. But I do think that we need to focus on things like we've said here. I think we all want the same thing. I think we want as few abortions to take place as possible. So through education, access to contraceptives, things like that. I think that's the route we need to go. I think if we can alleviate the whole need to have abortions in the first place, then when we have those rare cases, I think they need to be safe, legal, and rare. Again, I think that the far left tends to be more pro-abortion. Again, that's just the fringe. And the pro-right, they're kind of hypocritical as well because they are all for pro-life, but then they don't want to support the children once they're born, things like that. So I think we all want the same thing. We want less abortions overall, but them to be safe, legal, and rare.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it over to Aircraft Sparky.
Okay, so Roe v. Wade was actually founded on the idea of the Fourth Amendment that government should not invade the privacy of the individual, especially with their medical records. It was actually a pretty interesting decision and kind of a base decision, in my opinion. Although I do believe that since it is not enumerated in the articles as a purview of the federal government in the Constitution, that needs to be kicked down to the states, which would be a 10th Amendment right. That is where I would have loved to have seen this argued on, but no. Someone did a little sneaky stuff when it comes to how they wrote up this law. And yeah, it's kind of disgusting feeling that they're empowering the neighbors to actually advocate for the rights of the child in the womb. It's an invasion of privacy. I'm not a big fan of it, but I am happy with the fact that it is going to limit abortion because I am an abortion abolitionist. I do not like the idea of killing an innocent human for the convenience of, well, whatever. Personal responsibility needs to exist. I can admit this bill, the way it was passed and the way it is sold, I think is a little bad. However, the results of it I'm okay with, but I don't like it's conflicting for me. Personal responsibility, rights of the child inside the womb. My goodness, everyone wants to talk about the woman's right. Well, what about that potential human? What can that potential human be? Could it be the next Einstein? Could it be the next monster? We don't know, but we need to give that child the opportunity. Thank you.
Okay.
That's why we should get everybody vaccinated so people don't.
The last time you can speak on a topic like this is during the intro to the next one. So if somebody says something during the after
COVID, but they got aborted.
But only during the intro to the next topic. The last topic is the media treating Biden fairly? Recently, with his Afghanistan withdrawal, we've seen a lot of different perspectives put forward on Biden and his portrayal by the media. So the question is the media giving an accurate portrayal of his administration? They're being too nice to him, or are they being too aggressive with him, or whatever you want to put it? So is the media treating him fairly? We're going to start in the bottom right-hand corner with Xander Hall.
Yeah, I think overall the media has treated Biden about exactly how I expected from the start. He doesn't draw up as many clicks as Trump did, so obviously you're not going to see as much attention on him as you would with Trump being in power. But I think especially with the Afghanistan thing, I think that the media's been
it's so funny.
Frankly, a little bit too nice to Biden. Believe it or not. Yeah, I actually think that in comparison to Trump, the media's been a little bit more charitable towards him. And obviously coverage has been more spotty in comparison to Trump because he's not as entertaining and doesn't draw as much clicks. I really do think it's a matter of, for a lot of especially non-mainstream media organizations, to focus more on what's going to get the most attention when it comes to their coverage. And I don't really have any strong opinions on this particular subject, but those are my thoughts.
Okay, next is the Turk.
Yeah, so I appreciate the data. That's why I wanted to read it and actually understand what Josie was saying. Unfortunately, it doesn't line up with what she said at the time, but I will go past that and go into the current topic. Joe Biden's a clown. It depends on who you call, quote, the media. I watch a lot of right wing media because as a conservative, and we, of course, watch a lot of what Joe Biden does and we overanalyze the snot out of it. And, I would love to see more different opinions of it, unfortunately. But I'm really glad to see that Xander says that there are instances where the media has not portrayed, neutrality in towards things. And I would just honestly ask the panel, what is Trump's favorite ice cream?
Okay, I'm gonna throw it over to Pixel Smixel.
Look, I obviously consume a little bit of American political media, but I'll give you an Australian perspective of what's going on right now, because down under. But basically, you've got Sky News here, which is a subsidiary of like News Corp, Rupert Murdoch, the same people who run Fox News. And they are slamming Biden constantly. If you go to their YouTube channel, it's literally like, Biden fuck this, Biden fuck that, Biden is very, very bad, right? And that's basically conservative media in Australia. The more, I guess, centrist media, the basic take here in Australia is that like our prime minister can't get your president on the phone, probably because of his standing relationship with the
Ice
Trump
cream man
administration.
bad.
And that's about
Ice
it.
cream
Whether or not
bad.
Biden is being treated fairly, it's very interesting to compare the presidencies of, I think, Trump and Biden, because you look at Trump and what his politics was for entertainment. Whereas I feel like when you're looking at Biden, there are things that you should definitely be critical of on so many different fronts, right? But I do think a lot of it is overblown to fill out the 24-hour news cycle. That's my general take.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it over to Josie Rose.
Hey, thank you for dealing with my dancing. We had a level 5 hype train, so I couldn't not dance on the panel. So thank you for that. So I think it's very clear what is going on with like the media. Like it is being the media. It is going to have positive spin on one side, just like and the conservative spin is going to be negative on the other side. There's really no difference. The Fox News was all about Trump and every decision that he made, even when he liked cherry vanilla ice cream, which is weird. But the thing about it is, we look at the media, but we need to look at victories. Okay. So when I look at the way a presidency is done, it's not how the media covers it. For example, Biden's been very based on trans rights with VA medicine, making sure that trans people can get surgery starting next year, making sure that we change the Department of Housing, Housing and Urban Development to not discriminate against trans individuals and teaching them how to clock people, having Rachel Levine come in as the first trans woman to be a Secretary of Health. These are all positives because we're getting more equality in that way. We also had the infrastructure bill that has passed. A lot of people thought that wasn't going to do anything good. He wasn't going to be able to pass that. But actually, I voted for Bernie. And I voted for Biden next. But honestly, I'm actually pretty happy with the way Joe Biden is moving right now. And I think that any of the media that I see is very slanted in either direction. So I try to keep it on like the policy changes because I think that's more important. So I don't know how to answer that question other than Biden's been doing a pretty good job at this point in his presidency with other people in comparison, especially.
Okay, next we're gonna throw it over to Hunter Avalon.
Sure. So is the Biden coverage fair? To be completely honest, I don't know if that's possible to fully assess, and I don't even know if it's completely relevant, considering that whether or not the coverage is fair is going to be wholly determined by the reader. I advocate more to just look at Biden objectively, just like I tried my hardest, and I still try my hardest, to look at Trump objectively as well. So I think that we can analyze some of the good things Biden has done and some of the bad things Biden's done. For example, the Afghanistan situation. I know right now it's deeply unpopular. It's a very messy situation, so we can maybe criticize Biden there. But there's no denying that the infrastructure bill was a great success for Biden. And for example, the child tax credit, another great thing Biden's done that has been empirically shown to reduce child hunger. So there are absolutely things that Biden has done that's good, and some things he's done that maybe haven't been as smooth as they could be. But whether or not the coverage is fair, I'm not really concerned about that. I'd rather just talk about individual policies and go from there.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it over to Aircraft Sparky.
Has Biden been covered fairly? So Josie mentioned that need to look at the wins. So over 100 Americans left in Afghanistan. Win. A huge surge of illegal immigrants going through our borders, potentially spreading COVID and all this other stuff. Win. Our economy, jobs report came out today, about 50%, down from what was expected. Win. When it comes to the big things, the Biden administration is failing. When you look at the infrastructure bill, I don't believe it has passed both houses yet. I think it's being held up. So we don't really know if that's a win yet. The child tax credit, I see no problem with the parents getting the money up front. Whatever, that's not even a big deal to me. But the Biden administration has been mostly a failure, an abject failure, an object failure. It's quite objectively measurable. When you look at what happened in Afghanistan, they went the wrong order of operation, for Christ's sakes. First you remove the citizens, then you try to move out the equipment, then you move out the military. No, they moved the military out in the middle of the night, and then there's like, oh shit, we left Americans behind. By the way, they left puppers behind, contracted military working dogs, and they left actual Americans behind who was trying to get out, and the State Department told them, you got to stay in place because it's not safe for you. Biden should be eviscerated for all this. He really should, but I don't think he should be impeached for it yet.
Okay. Throw it over to Biggs.
Yeah, I think we've known since the very beginning that the media has been biased towards Biden. I mean, you had the majority of news outlets, excluding Fox, being very left-leaning, if not overtly, at least somewhat, even if just like subconsciously. We've had things like the Trump walking down the ramp and him saying like, oh, does he have a neurological disorder? And then, Biden tripping 3 times walking up to Air Force One and then say, oh, it was the wind, and he's fine, it's the wind, things like that. And you had the whole like the tweet when President Trump said like Kofifi or whatever it was because he like mistyped in fat fingered a tweet or something, and then you have like Biden saying true Namba Shabbat pressure and Batacaf care and like all these like crazy like nonsensical like statements, not being able to finish like the thing and that whatever, and it's like they completely deflect for him all the time. Then you have the issue with like the Hunter Biden story before the election, like magically like they shut it all down, and then after the election a month later like by the way this was actually real, blah blah blah, whatever. So they've been basically covering for the whole time. Now we're actually finally seeing people kind of getting fed up with this, and I think that this whole Afghanistan thing is finally the straw that broke the camel's back. And now we're actually seeing some type of pushback because, like, I think that the mainstream media outlets are kind of like saying like, hey, we can't keep lying for this guy anymore. He's like obviously, faltering. Like Sparky brought up with the jobs report, which actually wasn't even 50%. It was actually less than a third. Of what they expected and things like that, and they'll blame they blame the Delta variant and things like that, and a lot of states are shutting down because of that and things like that, which is it does make sense, but I just think that the media just covers for Biden constantly, and hopefully now that they're finally starting to see the cracks in the armor, we can actually get some actual legitimate, accurate reporting and actually being able to hold this president accountable for what he's doing. Things like the spending is out of control, the inflation is out of control, the Afghanistan debacle. There's just so many things that are stacking up against Biden, and we'll really see how this all comes to roost with the midterms in the next year and a half. So hopefully we'll actually be able to push like real good candidates on both sides. Like I said, I'm more of a centrist overall. Like I mainly push towards like libertarian views and like personal responsibility and like the person overall. But I'm hoping that we can get like people that are like these establishment, both Democrats and Republicans, out and get the more populist, the more people-oriented, the more down-to-earth grassroots movements on both sides into office in 2022.
Okay, now we're gonna throw it over to Demon Machine.
We've been having discussions as to whether the media is biased against anything since the printed word. You can go back to articles from 1700s earlier and earlier where they're like, "Is the king correct?"
I know, right? Now that they're actually doing their job, they're like,
so,
"Oh, they're
of course,
hating
there's
him."
always going to be bias. There's always going to be people that are favoriting one thing for another. The question comes, who do you trust as a unbiased source? Is there such a thing?
We'll see what happens.
And then, do you have any kind of regulation? Are we going to try and regulate what the truth is, or are we going to go with pure free speech and like you can say whatever you want about the president? And I mean, I would go with free speech personally, but the thing that worries me the most at this point is legacy media, ABC, NBC, CBS. You know, the ones that you typically hear about that are very upbeat about Biden or being very favorable to him,
even
though the deck stacked against him with his policies and all the things that he's done. It's a travesty that there's a lot of people that genuinely don't know the other side. They don't have any access to some of these other media outlets because they don't know they exist. And that's going to be a problem. So who do you I don't want to do anything to fix it, so to speak. It will eventually work its way out, but we're going to have some pain in the meantime, where we have very biased sources that say anything that they particularly want to. And people, as humans, we're going to adapt because we are in a situation right now where we have the internet. We have an overload of information. There's stuff coming at us from every which direction, and you have to pick out what is true, what is false, who is correct, who is telling you the truth at all. So that'd be my opening statement.
Okay, it is open to the room for the last topic of the night.
Okay, so I just want to go out real quick, and I was reading the jobs reports and the jobs numbers. This drop was actually expected because of the Delta variant's rise and the virus surging, and it actually does trend correctly. And yeah, Turk, you want to look at two articles. You can look at them on the Washington Post and New York Times, and you also can look at them on the government reporting website. You can use Google. And so that's one of the things. It's like the surge of the virus, and we're talking about the vaccine earlier. Like, if you want a better jobs number, I think this argument was made that if you care about the government, then you would want to solve the COVID crisis, because the COVID crisis is directly responsible for these drops in unemployment rate. And if you don't believe me, then why did Trump screw it up so bad when virus hit so hard? So the fact of the matter is, this is completely normal and expected, and I think that Biden has been doing a good job. So the chickens come home on the roost. And as a Navy veteran, I'm happy we pulled out of Afghanistan. I just want to say that too.
So
do you think the economy is doing well?
Let me speak.
Let
me speak. So what was the expected job growth number?
So the estimated
56,000, something like that.
No, I want her to speak.
They'd been shooting for.
I want her to speak. Josie, what was the expected jobs growth number for? I think it was August?
You're muted, Josie. You're muted.
The unemployment number was
jobs growth
the rate
number. Jobs growth.
The
number.
percentage. The
Jobs
percentage.
growth
It fell. It fell by 5.2. I'm answering your question. They expected it to drop to 5.6.
No, the jobs growth number.
I'm not a fucking data. I am a data scientist, but I don't have all of this information in front of me.
You
like
spouted
this.
out data at me a second ago.
I did. I just said 5.2 unemployment rate.
It out. All right.
No, I
720,000.
Yeah,
and what was the
720,000.
actual job number?
It was 235.
So that was growth.
No.
Yeah, no.
Because we gained 200,000 numbers. We gained 200,000 jobs.
Yeah, but the unemployment rate still fell at 5.2%, which is good.
That's not the question I asked, but that's fine. That's fine. Whatever.
I mean, we're talking about media biases, right? So why aren't we talking about the numbers that are right? So we still grew.
The job growth numbers, and they were completely off by like 500,000. But that's
I didn't even say it. I didn't even give you an aggregate number. I gave you a percentage. Jesus Christ, dude. You know there's a difference, right? Between 500,000. Apparently, you need a little bit of education about this.
We don't need it. We don't need it.
Okay, so
it sounds like
I do want to get back to the topic in question.
I would love to get back to the topic.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw it over to Biggs to get us back to the topic.
Yeah, so but I think it's pretty clear, and I think that basically everybody on the panel here can agree that when you have the majority, I think the main 3 networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, and then I guess you can count CNN, are very left-leaning for the most part. Again, they do have, like, you know, they write bad things about Biden because they kind of have to, because when he fucks up, they have to write bad things, right? And then you have Fox, who's always going to be probably anti-Biden, and they were in the reverse with Trump, right? But I think the issue here is when we actually look at the one-to-one correlation between how the media handled Trump versus now how they're handling Biden with kid gloves, not only like the fact that we have like just like the articles that we read online, but the actual questions they're asking Biden are just so absurdly childish and just so low brow that, like, how do we not see that they are treating him with kids' gloves, that they're afraid to ask him like real challenging questions? And when they actually do, he does weird ass shit like get real close to the mic and whisper things. And then he talks about like touching, like kids touching his leg, like weird shit. Like, how do we not see that that they're being very, very cautious with Biden from the very beginning, and then now we're actually finally seeing a pushback. Like, I'm glad that we're seeing that now, and I hope that it continues. But like the fact that we've seen it along the way for the first 6 months of his presidency, I just don't know how you guys can deny that.
Well, because it depends on what you're looking at. You can look at the left-leaning
Any of his press
sources.
conferences?
You can look at the left-leaning sources and get some maybe more like pro-Biden coverage, and then you can look at Fox News, which is the
what about
biggest...
his actual like news conferences and taking questions like on the fly? Like, how many times have we seen him actually take questions?
He has.
Okay,
I don't know. I'm not
stats?
just worried about it.
We're talking stats, right? Okay, so
well, wait,
up until
we're talking
now,
about media bias, right?
Right, yeah. So up until now, Biden's done like 10 interviews total in the first 6 months. Trump did over 50, and Obama did over 113, okay? They are treating Biden differently than these other presidents, and I want to know why, and they're doing it in a way that doesn't give him a chance to actually talk about what his things are and what he actually wants to do with the country. They're asking him fucking dumbass questions like what kind of ice cream he likes and things that are just so fucking absurd that have nothing to do with policy. Like, we need to actually focus on the issue, especially when it comes to things like people dying in Afghanistan. And I agree with you, Rosie. Like, I'm so glad we pulled out of Afghanistan, but we fucking did it terribly. And I think we can all admit that. And I'm so glad we're now finally holding him accountable for that.
But
no,
Biden he did the negotiations with the Taliban.
I actually have a data source right here from Pew Research Center. This is at the 100-day mark. This was before the Afghanistan thing, which there's only been more negative coverage since then.
I know exactly what you're looking at.
At 100-day mark, coverage of Biden has been slightly more negative than positive, varied greatly by outlet type.
But when you look at the actual like comparison of all the other presidents, you'll see that it's very actually in his favor. So actually look at the actual data before you start to spout
so that yes, they may have had wait, hold on. Stop being snarky. Okay, they may have very well be more nice to Biden than fucking Trump or something.
About. And all of the presidents in the past, right? If you look at the data, they have stuff going back to
I don't
Clinton.
know. If we're looking at broadly...
The data that you're looking at goes all the way back to Clinton, right? Did you scroll down? I looked at that exact same thing, just so you know.
Okay, good for you, buddy.
Good for me. Yes, I know. I was prepared for this, by the way.
Okay.
We've seen this before, though. We've seen the media cover for a president before with the same types of problems, and I'm talking about Reagan and the latter years of his presidency.
Oh man, this is so fun.
Look, if you've ever had anyone in your family who is suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, you've seen that look. Biden has that same look in his eyes. He stammers. Biden did not stutter. Go back to his 80s, to his speeches in the 80s. He spoke quite clearly. He did not have his stutter.
As I like to call them, the mullet days.
The old man is demented.
You can't just look at someone and assess them with dementia, though.
My God, have you ever looked at someone and just noticed that there's nothing but clouds behind their freaking eyes? The dude is a freaking airhead, and the press is sitting there covering for him. And I understand why. I don't blame them.
I love it.
How do you assume that Sparky's not?
I love it.
Come on.
No, I'm not a doctor. I'm an aircraft avionics technician. No, I'm not going to lie. I have had an uncle that was suffering from dementia, and I've seen that look. And if anyone has dealt with older people in their lives and seen that, they understand it. We saw it with Reagan. We're seeing it with Biden. But of course, a lot of the media is going to cover for him. But there's a lot of people. If you can't look at it, Adam Hunter, and say, "My God, there's something not clicking." If you can't see that even remotely, man, then
I'm trying to respond. One, to the thing is even if that were like the case, one, you can never determine that just by looking at the guy. Second of all, I'm pretty sure that the reduction in abortion rates that we're going to be seeing thanks to the expansion of the ACA and the children that are no longer going hungry thanks to Biden's tax credits, I'm pretty sure they would disagree with your assessment that he's some delusional, demented old man, when it seems as if his policies have been largely doing good. Secondly, I'd like to respond really quickly to this comparison of the negative and positive thing. Yes, you're correct that Trump was 44% negative assessment, whereas Biden seems to be 32% negative assessment. So when we're at the neutral, though, we're at equal amounts of 45% at neutral coverage. So yes, Biden is not getting as much negative assessment as Trump, but that's not just media bias. We could also look at that as the president and ask ourselves, was there perhaps more of a reason to criticize Donald Trump? Was Donald Trump more of a polarizing figure? Did it benefit them more to criticize Donald Trump? There are a variety of ways that we can look at this, but if we want to look at Biden's coverage in the first 100 days, it has been more negative than positive.
Well, I'm not even worried about the negative to positive ratio. I'm actually talking about holding a president accountable for the actions, the decisions that it's made. When they repealed the Remain in Mexico order, our southern border got crashed with a bunch of illegal aliens. And of course, the media go, "Oh, there's nothing to see here. There's no crisis." As he goes and fills the children in cages.
Are you a doctor?
You know, the same thing that people were bitching about with Trump.
God, yeah,
Biden is doing the exact same thing. And there's not Ocasio-Cortez with her little photo op crying at an empty parking lot, pretending like she gives two shit about people down from Mexico. And now we have 13 dead. We have 13 dead military members, 1 corpsman, and 12 Marines. A good bit of them actually Raiders. And for some reason, people aren't really making that much of a deal. Dylan Burns on his own channel, when it was brought up that he was checking his watch in the middle of the dignified transfer, he said, "Yeah, I don't give a shit about that because y'all don't give a shit about the military." People actually
the Afghanistan thing. If you're so heavily against the are you against the Afghanistan
situation? I was for the pullout. The pullout was done improperly, and it's because it was already planned out, and the plans were changed. This has all been confirmed through the Pentagon. For Christ's sake,
why did you vote for Donald Trump? Because Donald Trump's original plan was to actually pull out sooner with even more. With even more disregard for the Afghans and everything. It would have been an even messier situation.
You actually know why that he was planning in May. Because I could break down, because I've actually been there. I know what it's like.
Okay, go ahead.
You want to know why?
Yeah, educate
It's a seasonal thing. Okay, when you're up in the when you have people stuck up in the mountains, you need passes and stuff to actually, thaw out and stuff. May would not have been a bad time because the fighting season starts right around the beginning of May. So yeah, it does make sense. You wouldn't know that. You got to go there to understand that kind of stuff. It's all good, man. I'm not.
So
I support the pullout.
I got it. So white men can't talk about abortion, and if you're not in the military, you can't talk about this issue.
Yeah, apparently so. I was in the Gulf on Afghanistan. Does that count enough for you as qualifications?
I mean,
Sparky?
No one cares.
I don't think if you've actually stepped foot in the country, I don't think you understand what the terrain's like.
Oh,
this Sparky guy has a spark plug for a brain. Like everything he's saying is just like a complete fucking contradiction.
There's no need to ad hom, okay? If you don't have good points, fucking make better points. Don't fucking
ad hom. No, I think I've had pretty good points this entire time.
But that's a bad take. I'm just saying, be nice.
Actually, I'm in the basement of my own house that I own, but thank you. Also, I'm okay insulting people on a panel. That's when you come on a panel and you say dumb shit, I'm going to say that I think that you're dumb to your face.
It makes you look bad, okay?
I don't care about how I look. I'm more concerned about telling the truth. Optics comes secondary, okay? And optics
what truth
certainly.
Are you telling that? He's trying to literally tell you about like the seasons and the mountains and why that it was strategically beneficial to pull out in that season. But you're not listening, and then you ad hom.
It's just I think he deserves an ad hom after this. We've been talking now for almost 4 hours, and everything he's been saying has been contradictory.
If you think that's the best argument you can make, then I'm fine with that. But I think we should continue on.
All right, due to extenuating circumstances, I want to bring up my topic real quick. Is that okay?
Thank you, Liquid Sunshine, for the subscription.
I
love you. Thank you so much.
That's the most important thing that all presidents could ever
Ghost,
talk about.
Thank you.
Josie, what media outlet did
you guys are awesome. You know what?
Cherry lime.
You guys got my back. I love you for that.
Whatever it was. I don't care.
You guys got my back.
What media outlet did you get it from?
Liquid Sunshine, my mod.
Insider.
Coming in strong.
Okay. And
you guys
are they
based.
a popular mainstream media outlet?
I mean, it's kind of what they do is kind of like celebrity fluff pieces on people all the time. So, I mean, they're just an entertainment platform. You asked a silly question about ice cream flavors.
And that's fine.
I mean,
so if I go to Google, right, and you Google, does Trump like cherry vanilla ice cream?
People are trying to leave, so there's some private. Okay, I want to do some inside baseball here, but like some people are trying to leave. Oh my gosh, Luder subscribed too. Thank you so much. You guys are fucking amazing.
India.com.
Thank you. Hey,
maybe two.
I know you did that because you didn't want Liquid to fucking show you up, but I appreciate it because you guys are both bosses.
I don't know.
You guys are the Barry bosses. I wish I had Barry here with me, but I think he's with my daughter in her bed, so I can't go get him.
You got Fox News, obviously.
Oh my gosh, you gifted a sub to me. Thank you. Okay, that's
Yahoo.
you gifted the sub to Ghost Queen. Thank you guys.
Post,
you guys are fucking based.
Pop Sugar, Spoon University. So the last two are kind of dumb.
You guys are too good to me.
You would say that more major media outlets reported the favorite ice cream story than for Biden rather than Trump, right?
You guys are too good.
Yeah,
to me.
but if
you guys
a
are so
reporter,
amazing.
that doesn't
Thank
make a
you so
difference.
much.
It was both asked. They both asked the question.
Yeah, you had the what up clock guy. Okay, I get it. I get it.
That we're talking
Hell
about
yeah.
Tonight.
So you're saying because more media outlets reported the ice cream flavor of like the president, that makes the president more likable?
No, that going to the topic, it's that the media is reporting more favorable
But anyway,
stories.
so inside baseball, so like,
but you literally found them on both sides.
The
no,
panel.
we found more.
We made them mulled so hard that they want to leave the panel.
I disagree with your premise.
That's fair. That's fair. That's all I wanted to say.
Oh, the
I
link
found
about
more
the
mainstream
thing.
media
It
posts
was God,
about
what was it?
Biden's favorite ice cream than I did with Trump. But I appreciate being educated that cherry vanilla is Trump's favorite. So
I don't remember.
It just seems like he gives a fuck.
Exactly. It's
biased. Media is more willing to throw out fluff pieces to try and prop up Biden at this point in the game.
I looked at it earlier
They're willing to do things that would be unusual if it were any other president on there, where they're like, you know what, Biden.
It was pure
research. His dog. How long did they dodge the question about the dogs biting people in the Secret Service and stuff? Oh, he's going on. Even Jen Psaki was talking about. Well, I mean, he's going on a planned trip out, and and then the Secret Service. Texts leak, or they were Freedom of Information Act?
Emails.
They got information on that? What was that?
The emails. The Freedom of Information Act for the emails, yeah.
And so that turned out to be a little bit more... I mean, feel free to interrupt me anytime. Like, if you got something to say it.
So,
I'm much better back and forth.
One of the other things I wanted to say, too, is we had the phone call that leaked. I don't know how accurate that was, but if it was accurate... we had that. It was in the middle of July, I believe, when they were getting ready to. They pulled out from Bagram Air Base. So I think at that point we kind of knew that things were kind of going to shit, right? But they kept saying up until the first and second week, or basically the first week of August, that things were fine. You know, it was 90 days. 6 months and 90. It went from 6 months that the Taliban was going to take over to 90 days. Then it was 3 days, and it was literally hours, right? So I think that's just completely shows what we were talking about even before in the panel about how people don't believe the government. Obviously there was extenuating circumstances and they weren't necessarily prepared, but then when they literally came out and said that they prepared for every single contingency possible, I just don't understand how that can how the cognitive dissonance cannot be so dramatic in your mind when that is happening, and what they tell you, that you can actually believe what they're saying. You know what I mean? I just can't fathom that.
Okay. So it seems that the conversation is slowing down. So I'm fine for this to be a shorter topic if we all want to wrap up.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Xander Hull will be the last person before we do wrap up then.
Okay. I feel like this is just an obvious thing that for some reason we've kept walking past, and I don't know why, because it's glaringly obvious to me. Biden's presidency has been set up to be probably one of the most easy to avoid criticism presidencies ever. You're coming out of one in an administration that was very, very easy to cover. There was a lot to talk about. There was a lot for the media to criticize. And now we're coming into a time when there's a pandemic. We've got the vaccine out, which is naturally going to end up making things better. So Biden has that going for him. He's going through with ending one of the longest running wars in American history, one that's doesn't really have that much American public support, regardless of how you feel about how it was done. I believe it was done very badly. And then of course you've just got the comparison. It is really hard to compare how easy it is to make fun of Trump to how easy it is to make fun of Biden. It's incomparable. It's so many layers removed. There's nowhere near as much content as you can get out of them. I actually want to cite I don't know if it was a study or just a collection of data that I saw recently. I don't have it on hand, but traffic on media outlets has dropped both on the right and the left significantly since Biden got elected. Like massive drops. I know even political streamers here have probably noticed their viewer count, their income, their everything has dropped massively since Biden got elected. And I think a lot of that has to do, unironically, with a lot of people are just going back to brunch. A lot of people had 4 years straight of really engaged political discourse. And now they feel like, we got Obama too in office. Let's just go back to relaxing. I genuinely think that's the result of a lot of this. I think it is a motivation on the part of these media outlets realizing Biden just doesn't gain that much clicks. Granted, if there's a big story or something that needs to be covered, CNN's going to cover it. MSNBC is still going to cover it, but you're not going to notice it. You're not going to hear about Biden doing this obscure thing wrong with some policy that people aren't going to like because it's not going to gain as many clicks as it does with Trump. Everyone knew everything that was going on with Trump 24/7. Do you know when was the last time you read a news report about Biden, excluding today, when to the chat mostly is what I'm giving this to today prior to this debate? Probably not recently. You guys probably don't care as much, and I don't blame most people for that.
Okay. We're going to do wrap-ups now. We're going to start in the top left-hand corner with Aircraft Sparky. Please give your last opinion and also shout out your channel.
All right. Thank you so much. Look, everybody, Biden, has he been treated fairly? This is actually going to be a subjective thing. I think he's being covered for a lot because, look, everyone knows the emperor has no clothes. Something isn't right. He seems a bit off, and I just think the poor man's demented. He's had a couple of strokes. He's made some horrible decisions. Of course, even Obama said, leave it up to Joe to fuck something up. So, look, is he being treated unfairly or fairly? That's up to you to decide. I think he is just being covered for because, well, he's an incompetent president, and they're just waiting for 2022 for him to be impeached. They're probably going to 25th him and throw it to Kamala Harris. So we will actually have an unelected first female president who couldn't even get a single delegate in her own party. So that's what I think. I'm Aircraft Sparky. You can find me at youtube.com/aircraftsparky or twitch.tv/aircraftsparky. Find me there. Tomorrow I'm going to be drawing cartoons for a live action cartoon where the cartoon characters will be talking to you. That's what I got. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dylan, for having me, and thank you to all the panelists, even Hunter.
I want to thank Sparky for his innovation in cartoons by having audio incorporated. I want to throw over to Biggs.
Yeah, first off, I just want to thank you, Dylan, for having me on tonight. It was truly a pleasure. I love being on these panels, especially with topics like this. I thought the topics were superb tonight between you. I don't know if you come up with them or if Danabo does or whatever, but it's just amazing. Thank you so much. To all the panelists on here, you guys are all amazing. I know we have some heated discussions, but I just want to know I respect all of you, and I love hearing what your views are. My name is Biggs8500. I stream on Twitch at Biggs8500. You can find me on YouTube and Twitter. I like to push for more centrist views, trying to bring everybody together, because I think at the end of the day, we all kind of want the same thing. When it comes to Biden and the media, like I said in the beginning, I think he's been covered for a lot. But we're now finally starting to see the cracks in the armor. I think that things are starting to get to the point where they're becoming so detrimental to the average American, between the rising costs of like consumer goods to now the Afghanistan issue. I think that we're starting to see people starting to get angry, and his approval ratings continue to drop, things like that. So I think that we'll see it more and more in the future. Hopefully the media will hold him accountable to the best of their ability, and if not, hopefully we'll be at least the people to see through that. Hopefully in the midterms we'll see some more people being the establishment people being brought out, and more populist people from both the left and the right being brought in, and that way we can actually have the government for the people and by the people. I think we've kind of gotten away from that in this country currently, and I think we need to get more towards that. So thank you again, Dylan. Thank you for all the panelists. You guys are all amazing. Everybody on here that streams, give all these people a follow, give them a sub. They're amazing. They put in a lot of work into this. So just it's hard to do this type of stuff, staying up on all the current issues and things like that. So just thank you all. You guys are all amazing. Thank you so much.
Throwing it over to Demon Machine.
So basically, I think it seems like there's a bias towards Biden because basically they can't report negative things about him unless they absolutely have to, or else they would be basically fired for journalistic malpractice. But they are trying to cover up, or in the legacy media or the mainstream or whatever the term you want to use to describe these things, they're all over YouTube, alternative media, all over it, doing whatever they're supposed to do. And it'll eventually work itself out. But for the time being, it's pretty sad to see. And they're going to go down kicking and screaming. And that's about it. Like, that's it.
Okay, I'm gonna throw
thank
it.
you for having me on the panel and all that good stuff. Like, I appreciate it.
No problem. I hope the car survives. Gonna throw it over to Hunter Avalon. Great ending statement. It'd be better if you were not muted.
I actually started saying something kind of dumb, so it's good that I was muted still. Yeah, I think. Thank you, Dylan. I think that whether, like I said at the beginning, I just think whether or not the coverage of Biden is more favorable, less favorable, whatever, I don't care as much about that as I do about whether or not the policies at the end of the day are beneficial and good. I think it's almost just a distraction to be worrying about what the media is doing. How come AOC is crying here and not here? Who cares? Of course, some activists are going to be inconsistent. Of course, there's going to be some left-leaning media that covers left-leaning opinions.
Let's just disregard
and then there's going to be
right-leaning
media that props up
just brush it under the rug.
We're
all
going
the
to see
people
this
that
happen across
we
the
don't
board.
want to be.
Either way, I would much rather look at the Biden
just
policies, and thus far, I think
problem.
Biden's been doing a pretty decent job. Again, I point to the infrastructure bill, the ACA, which he plans on expanding, which is going to reduce abortions, and what was the last thing that he's done? Oh yeah, the child tax credit, cutting down child hunger. That's always a great thing too. I appreciate it, Dylan, you having me on the panel. Thank you very much, and thanks to everyone else. I enjoyed arguing with all of you. I am actually going to leave the call now, if that's okay. So yeah, thanks again, Dylan, for hosting. Really appreciate it, man.
Love having you on. We're now going to throw it over to Josie Rose.
Yeah. I echo everything that Hunter said about, the policies that were really what I look. And, I would really like to see if Biden is impeached in 2 years or impeached twice to see if the incompetency is the thing. And I just want to note one other thing, that all of the complaints about Biden, most of them were all ableist, about him being too old or having a cloud behind his eyes and not being able to speak and all this type of stuff. I recall when liberals and left people were talking about the cognitive decline of Trump, I knew right-wing people were so angry, so upset. How dare you? How dare you say all these things? But almost uniformly across the platforms where conservatives speak, they all talk about the cognitive decline of Biden rather than the issues of the things that he's actually doing wrong. Because actually he's done a lot of policies and he's done a lot of work, and he hasn't went golfing once or sent a mean tweet. So there we go. I think that's already a better way
He probably
of going.
can't golf.
And I would really like
He
to
probably
see
is too
an
infirmed to
America where
actually
people
go
critique
golfing.
the president on their
That's what I would
policies and
bet.
not
He
because
probably
they
just
think
can't
that
even get
they're
out of the house. He just wants to go back to
cognitively
Delaware and go take a
but
nap.
I think that might be wishful thinking.
He just
at
wants to
this
go
point
take
in
a
our medieval
nap.
history in the
It's
United
so
States.
funny.
Okay, now I'm gonna throw.
Wait. Oh, sorry. You can find me at Josie Rose C at Twitch.tv. I'm sorry, I closed all that out. And just to let you know, we are starting a D&D game called Awful Good TV. So if you want to check it out, go to Awful Good TV. That's what we're gonna do. I almost forgot to bury the lead about who I am. So you can find me on Twitch at Josie Rose C. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much. I'm now gonna throw it over to first timer Pixel Smixel.
Look, I think with that last topic, I was more than comfortable to, let the Americans talk about how Biden is covered in the media there. I think that's really important. The discussions that we've had tonight have been super interesting. If you are interested in a more global perspective of what's going on in America, it's very interesting. From Australia, we're like your shit little brother, and we kind of copy everything you do, but like not quite. But it's very interesting how American essentialism plays into the Australian political landscape, and I do a lot of coverage of that on my channel during the middle of the night American time. So generally, most of you will be asleep when I'm streaming, but I do cover the news in a pretty solid news voice most nights at twitch.tv/pixelsmixel. And Dylan and Danabo, thank you so much for organizing this. This is my first time, and I was really nervous. So hopefully I did okay. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on, and yeah, I've enjoyed it.
You've done a really good job, and I can't wait to have you on again. Gonna throw it over now to the Turk.
Yeah, so I've been on a couple of different panels with Dylan talking about media bias, and as much as people hate to admit it, yes, there is a liberal bias towards the media, and for Biden, it's unfortunately just not showcasing some of the deficiencies within his administration. I'm with Avalon on this one. We should be talking about policies and whatnot, and I don't give a crap about his favorite ice cream. So the media shouldn't be reporting what his favorite ice cream is. We should be talking about what really matters when it comes to being a president, how he handled Afghanistan, how he's handling the border crisis, and of course how he's handling the Texas thing, because he's obviously against that, and him and Kamala are both posting all over social media how they're going to fight this thing. So it's like media is being selective in how they want to report it, and unfortunately that proves the case that the media is taking it easy on him. So I'm Turk. I stream science and tech over on Twitch and YouTube. This is the portable PlayStation 5. You'll see that video next week. And if y'all like all sorts of other science stuff, y'all can follow me there or follow me here on Twitch. I doubt anyone in your audience will, but the option's there.
Now we'll throw it over to Xander Hall to wrap us up.
Yep, my name is Xander Hall. You can find me on YouTube, my website, xanderhall.com/live, and Twitch. I talk about politics and all sorts of stuff. And yeah, that's basically it. Sometimes I play Rust. I'm a recovering Rust addict.
Happy to have you on. Thank you all for coming on the show. I hope you all have a blessed weekend. I'll see you guys hopefully on a future show. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
It was real. It was fun. Y'all take care.
Yeah, you guys. Thank you guys. We got
I love.
We got the righties in here, and
yeah, they all freaking left like the plague.
Yeah.
Well, of course they did. Of course they did. Look, my man Biggs. Oh God, I love you, bro. I know
love
you're
you too, man. We got to do more stuff. We've been on some panels together, and we need to do something with me and you. Like
I'm streaming. I'm streaming right now.
Me too.
Come over to my channel. Look, we need to trade Discords.
Hell
you too.
Yeah. I'm on your Discord. I'm on your Discord.
Look.
If there's an after party, I want to know.
In and talk to me. Let's do an after show. All of y'all. Let's do an after show. We can talk there.
Honey, am I allowed to stay and play with my friends?
Yeah.
You can do everything. Look, you can go off, Demon. I know you wanted to.
Dude, I was feeding off your energy, okay? You were going nuts all over the place, and I was just like trying to feed off that energy, man.
The problem is, I do really good in back and forth. I don't do this like wait for your turn, wait for you to finish.
It's hard. It is hard.
Thought.
Yeah.
I have to stop you when you say something fucking stupid and get you to fucking clarify that. Because
it's a game. It's a game you have to learn to play.
Can I interrupt real quick? Can I interrupt real quick? That's why I explicitly called out Josie on that fact that she stated, and that it was completely bullshit. And then you saw how triggered she got and how everyone in chat got. irate on it. I did the same thing to Joe Lewis, and it's like,
oh, that dude is
they
frustrating.
can't admit being wrong, even if it's like a simple, yeah, I said something wrong, my bad. It was 51%, not 90%. It's like, dude, that's all you got to say. But as soon as you call them out on a fallacy, they fucking go off the deep end.
Ableist. I'm ADHD. Exactly. Oh, sorry, I forgot I'm not muted.
No, it's fine, dude. And that's why I did it explicitly, and that's why I keep going down the line. It's like, you got to call these guys out when they need to be called out.
Flat Earth
That's when you
videos, hell
see their
yeah.
true self, and that's the only way in these panels that they will be identified for what they are.
That's a good point.
Precious. She says, I'm only wrong when my wife says I'm wrong. Honey, have I been wrong all night?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I try to come to these with like a more honest and like not
I
debate,
think it's
bro.
time for us to go full CTV every time on the panel.
See, I don't like that. I hate that. See, that's what that bothers me so much. Like, I don't like. Okay, I love CTV, but like, he's a great guy. And when you have him, on, like when you talk to him outside of panels and like on one-on-one conversations, he's amazing. But when he gets on the panels, all he does is meme, and I hate that.
Yeah,
you should meme sparingly.
Yes, exactly.
So, if you guys are unaware, I don't know if you happen to know, I do a Sunday show, Shit Talk Sunday, where everybody's allowed to come in and bullshit politics, and we sit here for like
what
5
time?
hours. It starts like 10:30, 11ish, well, between 10 and 11 a.m. I usually try to start closer to 10.
Well, I sent all y'all a link to the Discord, except for Biggs because he's already there. Feel free to come. Look, I got to get to my audience. I got to have them tell me how shit or how good I was.
Yeah, I'm gonna bounce tonight, guys. But I would definitely love to talk to any one of you. I think I threw out friend requests to all of you guys. So
awesome.
Just hit me up and look at what other Discords we're in. I don't know if I know Demon. I know we're in some Discords together, and I don't know about you, Turk. But we should definitely hook up and have some chats.
Yeah,
I am the ranger of the Wolves Den.
Well, right on. Well,
awesome.
I know exactly where to find you.
Perfect.
All right, y'all take care.
You too. Have a great night. Thank you.
Man.
Later, guys.
Peace. Later. All right. Thanks, stream. You guys all have a great night. Thank you so much. Everybody that followed and subbed. Peace.